Greetings and salutations, and welcome to yet another edition of the Far Reaches podcast. I'm your silver tongue host, the Micah, with my co-host, Mr. Joel. We are double reaching at the moment as Mr. Raleigh is in parts unknown, and Richard is doing some domestic errands and will be with us very shortly. So we thank you for joining us this time and every time here on the Far Reaches podcast. Quick reminder, this is again brought to you by our super good friends at B&K Auto Salvage in the beautiful Grand Ronde Valley. Mr. Joel, have you ever been over to Baker and LeGrand?
Sure.
Outstanding.
Couple times.
So if you're headed out of LeGrand south towards Union, you're going to see the B&K Auto right there on your right. And that's that location anyways. You know, overall in the whole region, they got over 1,200 used cars and vehicles in stock and a large selection of 4x4 parts, where if you're like me, tearing shit up every weekend, it's probably good to have a source for good 4x4 parts. They are your Eastern Oregon one-stop shop in the automotive world. Now, remember, folks, we're still doing it also. Use promo code REACHER for discounts on pulled parts and a bump in those scrap rates. And that means it goes up. They're going to bump up your scrap rate, not down. I mean, they know you probably have some questionable taste by being a Far Reachers loyal listener, but they're still going to take pity on your soul and bump up the scrap rate. That means you're getting more money for listening to the Reachers and going shopping there with our good friends at B&K Auto. So, biggest discounts right there on Highway 203 outside of the Big, your local used auto parts and scrap metal dealer. Brought to you every time as part of this great program. Can't thank them enough for all their help and support. We are proud partners with B&K Auto and thank them for being part of our Reacher family. Speaking of Reacher family, this week, so far, it's myself and Mr. Joel, but we're gonna carry on because that's what we do. That's what a Reacher does, right, Mr. Joel?
Sure.
Dynamite drop in, Joel. He's not the best color man in the business for nothing, folks.
Bit caught.
For those of you playing along at home, you might recognize a little homage to Major League, of course, but I couldn't resist because that's one of the best movies of all time. So again, a quick reminder, everybody, also, we are available on most major podcast platforms and on the YouTube channel, and you can find us again on Facebook at the Far Reaches, or reach out to any of us. Reach out to a Reacher. That could be like a special Thursday holiday or something like, hey, it's National Reach Out to a Reacher Day. I think that'd be great. So,
hey, let's get a little bit more of a plug for this B&K. I never really listened to the advertisement. What is it they do? So you say 4x4 parts. What are there? Just people out there
so are you familiar with what a scrapyard is? Like a junkyard?
Not really.
Okay,
no.
So
there's just junker cars in there.
Yeah, actually, to tell a personal story, way back in grad school, I had this beater car I bought for a while because I was a college student. So I had to get rid of my pickup and do some other stuff, and I had this beater car. I drove it for a while, but I definitely got my money out of it, and it ran when I took it there. But I took it to B&K, and they actually paid me like $700 for this car, and I said it's all yours. And so oftentimes they'll just buy it for scrap value or that, and so somebody might have they got a 78 Ford Bronco or something, and they need a transmission for that. So they'll call up the salvage yard and say, hey, you guys got any Broncos out there with transmissions in them automatic? Like, yeah, we got a few. They have a pretty good inventory of what they have. And so, one of the other advertisements we do, we talk about pulling it yourself, or they can pull it for you. So, you can be like, hey, yeah, I'll take one. And oftentimes they'll go pull that transmission or tires or something for you. Or you can just roll in there with your pickup or your car and your tools, and you can yard that sumbitch out and pay for it and drag it home. So,
okay, so it's for people just fixing up a car.
Yeah, for sure. Or if you're doing a swap, a lot of times it's real popular, on a lot of TV shows now. If you have an old beater car, but you're gonna go get I got a 71 CUDA or something like that. I'm gonna go find a new wrecked SRT Challenger, what's got the hopped up Hemi in it, and I'm gonna pull that old engine or that new engine out of that old car and put it in my old car. So swaps like that happen. Yeah, it's a great way. It's sometimes if you bought an older rig, there's nowhere to find parts. So that's a great place to go. So, and if you're like a lot of folks in that part of the world too, we always had it growing up. You've got what we call the boneyard out back, where you drag the old tractor that blows in half, or Junior's car that hit a deer one year. I had one year I had like 4 deer in 1 year. Sometimes you just park it in the back. You're like, yeah, I'll work on it later or whatever. Then eventually you're like, we're not doing nothing with that. And you call the scrap guy. You call Bo. He comes and picks it up and gives you so much per pound. And if you use code Reacher, you get a little bump in that scrap rate. So, yeah, they pay you by the pound and they haul that shit out there for you. So, and scrap rate goes up and down, depending on what the metal market's doing, how the demand is. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty cool. So, yeah, they got a huge selection there. If you're looking for parts, they ship parts all over the place because, somebody totals out a brand new Ford pickup, and the insurance company's like, yeah, it's totaled, but it's going to have good seats in it. It might have good rear glass. It might have a good bed on it, or who knows what. So, yeah, it's a good way to upgrade your rig. Or if you're a really motivated individual, you go buy a total truck out of there and fix it up. And it's called a salvage title. So
yeah, so this guy's driving around with like a yellow cab and a purple.
Actually, yeah, you can't see my shirt, but there's a show on TV. The guys always fix up old cars, and like there's actually outline there. You can see it. Like it's got a different colored front fender and stuff on it on the car. Yeah, so it's exactly that, because you just finding pieces wherever you can. So yeah. It's quite the
There's
business.
Richard.
Yeah, there's Richard. No, man, look at that. He looks like Abe Lincoln, or not Abe Lincoln, Ben Franklin. Yeah.
I'm here.
Ben
We're
Franklin
recording.
without his wig.
Oh, here you are. Yes. Sorry. He's right over here. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. For all the shit I gave people about being bald, I should be completely bald by now, but I'm still, I guess my penance is barbershop bills. So anyways, yeah. Richard, welcome. We were just discussing actually a little bit more about our good friends at B&K and kind of how that business works and what they do, and like who's going to go get something out of the scrapyard and what you're going to do with it, and just kind of how handy it can be to save your bacon sometimes. So
I had a good conversation with Bo last month, and I should have stopped by when I was up in Boise and visited with him. I think they have a yard somewhere in Idaho.
yeah, they do.
So I had no idea, but they are big.
Yes.
So,
Bo has done a tremendous job, and a lot of folks there too, but I'm more in touch with what Bo has done. He's quite the innovator and always been just kind of a strong entrepreneurial spirit and fun to work with and watch. So it's impressive what they're doing, and they're out there turning and burning, man. He covers quite a wide swath, delivering parts, picking stuff up. I think they just added a new truck today, if I remember right from the Facebook story. So
nice
yeah.
light blue Pete.
Yeah, Correctamundo. Yeah, nice kind of a powder blue. So
Long nose
yeah,
too.
it is
That's
pretty.
a serious truck.
It is pretty. Yeah. So yeah, Joel had a good question. He's like, yeah, I finally started listening to the advertisement a little bit. And what exactly do these guys do? I'm like, great question, my good sir. Yeah. So yeah, they're still doing promo code Reacher. So say again.
Most people just like go buy a new car instead of trying to fix the one they got.
Yeah, they do, and so it's often a good resource if you don't want to do that, or if you don't have the means, perchance, or maybe you got a project you're working on the sidecar, you got your new car already paid for and fun, and you're like, yeah, I always wanted a '68 GTO. Maybe you duct tape one together, you find an old like a Le Mans or something and make it a GTO. I don't know if that's what you'd actually.
You can't underestimate the amount of talent that I think it would take to know how to do stuff. Like
you got YouTube. You're fine. Yeah.
See, I got this. I have this. I'm hatching this plan.
Ooh,
I'm going to take the 92 Toyota.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do a little road trip through Nebraska and South Dakota and Montana this spring. And no air conditioning. You're gonna have to get the tape or the audio system to Bluetooth up, and I won't be able to talk on the phone because it's so loud when it's going down the road. But I'm really looking forward to. It's almost like going back to your youth when you just made do with what you had, and it's
Absolutely,
sort of like, I
man.
guess it'd be like the equivalent of riding your horse across the country. Only I'm going to
It's
take a
louder.
'92 Toyota.
Yeah, it's just louder. About the same amount of horsepower, just a little bit louder. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite TV shows is called Roadkill, and it's these two a-holes that worked for Hot Rod Magazine forever, and they'll go just buy like a '92 Toyota, like, and we're driving here in it, and shit breaks all the time. Or I think I watched one the other day where like, we've got 4 days and $1,500, and so they threw a map in like the dart hit El Paso, so they flew to El Paso, found a car that they could buy, and then they had to get home on the rest of the money. So they got like a 72 Chevy Caprice for like $650, or something like that. And they had to drive all the way back. So they kept track on the trunk. They wrote in Sharpie of all the expenses, and they'd put it on eBay when they left El Paso, and when they got to LA, they sold it for $550 or something. So yeah, it was quite the adventure. But they do random, like, that's some of the random stuff they do. So there's a job out there if you can think of it. So yeah,
Right.
I'll be. You'll have to do. Of course, you'll document your road trip well, I'm sure, but that should be entertaining.
Well, I'm getting really good at video editing, so that'll be one of the side things I work on. Is that I'm thinking about doing interviews with people every day and doing little video clips and then combining them all when I get done. Because
Ooh.
my plan is to go and see some really interesting folks that some I have met in person and some I haven't, but it's turning over in my mind. It'll probably happen.
I love it. Yeah, we'll have to get all over that. Yeah, I'm sensing some sort of weird sponsorship, or it'll come. It's hatching. It's ruminating. Yeah. Anyways, we were just getting to our weekly updates because we decided to take a few extra moments to kill some time for you and Ralls to show up, but also more importantly, just to kind of talk a little further about what B&K does and kind of what a service they provide for people who either have scrap they need to get rid of, or for looking for some stuff to do project with, if you will. So sorry, I always say things in a Canadian way, several words. Resource, project, those are two of my favorite. So it's the honorary hoser, so I have to do that every once in a while. So let's kick it off with the reach around. It's a trifecta now. It's a three-legged stool, if you will. So we'll kick it off with Mr. Joel in the locker room. Joel, you got a weekly update for us?
Gosh, so it's been a while since we met last.
It's been about just about a week and a half, because we were Thursdays and then we went to the Tuesday on this one because that's what I wanted to do. So yeah.
Did I tell you guys that I went to a comedy show?
I think you texted it to us, but I don't think we talked about it on here. Yeah.
Oh. Well, I went to a comedy show. Showed up to the Stand, which is one of the top comedy clubs in New York. As soon as they opened up New York City for indoor dining, we can do 25% capacity now. I decided I wanted to go there. Well, I think it was it was after my birthday. But I met a friend there, and they surprised us with stand-up. They had Dan Soder.
Nice.
Wow.
And David Tell was there.
Oh, that's right.
Holy
Remember
cow.
that? Yeah, Tell. He's
Yeah,
slays.
and Sean Patton, who's he's a good comedian. And then a few people I didn't really know, but I'd seen them before. They're just not particularly funny.
You're used to that, yeah. So.
But that was really cool. I'd missed that.
Oh yeah.
Shit, yeah. I don't know. So today I went to the doctor. I hadn't been to a doctor since I had knee surgery a couple of years ago, but this was the first physical I've had in 12 years, probably.
Yeah, totally. I did that yesterday.
Oh, really? Yeah. This guy talked me into a flu shot. I really did not want a fucking flu shot. Especially, I was like, he asked me if I wanted the flu shot. I said no. And then he was like, you need to get a flu shot. I'm like, haven't only like 160, I just saw on the news 165 people in America have gotten the flu this year. and, and I'm like, when does flu season open? And he was like, everyone needs to get a flu shot, especially during COVID. I'm like, well, I had COVID already. Does that matter? He's like, you should get a flu. Like, fine, give me the fucking flu shot, man. Let's shut up about this. I'm disappointed in myself for caving on that, but
Yeah.
I need to move on. One of the reasons I went there, and this is maybe too much information for people listening, but I have a self-diagnosed inguinal hernia. That's why I went to the doctor, give him a fucking look at this thing, and
you mentioned that a few weeks ago or a month or two ago, like you thought you had a hernia. I thought.
Yeah, but he was like, "Yeah, you reschedule and come back specifically for that." I'm like, so part of the physical process, which I ignored because it doesn't make any sense. They tell you to undress. The nurse tells you to undress and put on this gown. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I mean, I took my pants off, but I left everything else on.
You didn't have pants on when you showed up, probably. So.
But even that, like, there was no purpose for me to take my fucking pants off. Especially, you didn't even check my hernia.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I can't wait to talk about my doctor's appointment then. It's completely different. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I guess.
What has this show turned into? Jesus Christ. When I was at my doctor,
yeah, I was worried about my blood pressure. I was having like some chest pains and stuff, but I think it was anxiety induced from all the marijuana. So I quit smoking marijuana and got some beta blockers for anxiety, and blood pressure's fine. Yeah, what else? And then stock market, that's gone to shit.
That probably helped on your blood pressure and your chest pains.
Yeah, my Bitcoin is doing poorly.
Thanks to Elon.
What's that?
Elon screwed everything up, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he? How? Well, he said it's overpriced.
They bought like 1.6 billion worth of it or something, didn't they?
They did,
right?
Yeah. Square just announced today they're buying a bunch of it too. I think it'll come. It'll come back.
I don't know how many.
Every day I come more and more convinced that this thing is going to skyrocket. There's only 21 million coins possible. There's a liquidity issue where people want to buy it, but they can't get their hands on it. There's only one way for this thing to go, ultimately. So fucking get some, man.
I wish I'd have thought that when I owned it at $3,000.
Oh, you got rid of it?
Yeah.
Right now, I'm keeping an eye on it. Right now, it's sitting at 50,360.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably 45 or 50 is going to be the new kind of baseline for a while, I'm guessing, and it's going to shoot up and back and forth. But yeah, you know, remember it held at 30 or 35 for quite a while. So yeah, what the hell do I know? But that's just my opinion.
And then I just got the rest of my money in that SPAC still, PSTH, and that won't move from 30 these days. Just hugging 30.
Trickle dickle. Yeah.
Well, I woke up, it was down to like 26, so I bought a whole bunch more.
Oh, good.
So, have you read any Nissim Taleb's books, or I'm drawing a blank on the other guy. It's a great book. And then anything that Charlie Munger ever wrote. Have you read any of that stuff?
No.
It's all good perspective on the stock market. Help you get over any anxiety you might have about it. So there's so many different styles, and like sort of like watching the oil price when you're in the oil field. It just wrecks your brain. So,
oh yeah. Like everything.
That's one thing
I pretty much down today. So I just realized I hadn't looked. So
one thing I actually recently got into, I'd never done it before, is options. I bought some call options. And I bought some call options on ExxonMobil last week. And that, because I think oil prices are going to skyrocket from here. Those are doing really well.
That's some cool stuff there, Maynard. Yeah, I even wrote that down. That's how important that was. Yeah.
Oh, the other book's called A Man for All Markets.
Ooh.
It's a great book.
A Man for All Markets.
I got that chart or the Warren Buffett book for Christmas one year. It's like 9,000 pages.
That was Jimmy Buffett.
Snowflake?
About value investing. No thanks. That sounds boring.
What does he know? Yeah.
I saw there's this meme of, I don't know who sent it to me. I think I sent it to you guys maybe, but there's a Warren Buffett recently said that he didn't like trust Bitcoin or something, and somebody said, "Have fun staying poor."
That'll alert him. Oh, that's hilarious.
Other than that, what else has happened in my week? My bank released earnings that were not good.
Way to go.
Not my fault entirely.
Entirely. I'll take some of the credit when it's good. I'll take some of the credit when it's bad. Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got to say.
That's not a bad week. Yeah. That's not a bad week. Entertaining. Yeah. Richard, what happened?
Man, I had a jam-packed week. Been crazy busy. And I hate using the word busy. I can't believe I just did it. Been going 9-0 since, not since the last podcast, but here in the last 5 or 6 days.
Outstanding.
Yep. Really exciting opportunity to get in with some guys that are attempting to reimagine the carbon market, which is completely out of control as of late. If anybody's paying attention to any of that, probably not, just me. So had a few meetings about that last week, and really sort of excited about the direction it's going. The work that I've been putting in on the regenerative agriculture stuff in the last 3 years is really starting to pay dividends. So it'll probably all go away with the next new trend that gets created, but I got this one locked in for a little bit. Next week, I'll probably be crying in my beer. But,
probably getting blacklisted off LinkedIn again.
How'd you react?
So that's exciting to sort of be on the front end of something that's, I think, has a lot of potential. And
absolutely.
Really feel
what is
like
that?
I'm
What is that
staple
anyway?
here.
What is the carbon market? What is that? Like it pollution?
No, so
sequestration.
So the thought is that agriculture lands can sequester so much carbon. You have all these Fortune 500 companies that have these pledges to be zero carbon emitters by such and such a date. Well, they have to find that carbon being captured out of the atmosphere somewhere. There's really only 2 ways to do it. You can capture it in agriculture land, pastures, rangelands, any number of different ways that agriculture can capture it. And then there's actual machines that suck carbon out of the air.
Scrub it.
I think one's called Climate Klein. Anyways, those guys have recently been following like everything I post on LinkedIn, and I don't know why. We're in different carbon industries, but what the hell?
Hey.
But that's one of the
symbiotic.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that Bill Gates is plugging in his new book. The book, I'm working my way through that book. It's a crazy ride. And then, so that the whole thing is there's more people than there is in agriculture trying to figure out how they're going to capitalize on this carbon market. So I got an American Farmland Trust call last week, and they had 5 different carbon exchange markets represented on the call.
Wow.
And so I got to look it into, if you sequestered 1 metric ton of carbon per every acre of farmland in the United States, that'd be 650 million metric tons of carbon that would get out. And you can swing a metric ton of carbon by 1 to 2%. And if you can swing the carbon in the acre by 1 to 2%, you're basically sequestering about a metric ton of carbon. So if you have really good soil health and really good management practices, you could, in a given year, you could add or lose 2 to 3 metric tons of carbon per square acre. So all that is tradable for these companies that are trying to offset their emissions. The catch is,
I don't really. Can you explain like I'm 5? So you have an acre of farmland, and you're going to capture carbon, as in like your plants that you grow are going to pull the carbon out, and then you get credit for something that's already done. Well, not you get credit, but like Bill Gates flying around the world in his private jet while talking about climate change and stuff. He's offsetting this because, well, I'm paying the guy growing a crop to buy his carbon.
Carbon credits.
Bullshit. Yeah. That was already happening. It's not like you're not really offsetting. It's all paper. Fudge and paper.
It is possible to capture more carbon in pastures and farmlands than we're currently achieving. So if it becomes a business, then it changes the whole dynamics of agriculture. So not only are we trying to grow healthy foods, but we'll also be trying to grow crops that actually sequester more carbon out of the atmosphere or capture more carbon out of the atmosphere.
And I'm not a scientist, but eventually, eventually, isn't that carbon going to be released again through, like, I don't know, eating and farting?
And to have a healthy carbon cycle, you have to have it has to be a cyclical occurrence.
So there's no such thing as offsetting carbon.
Yes,
you can't fly in a plane and say I bought offsetting credits from farmers because they grow plants, but eventually that carbon is going to get released anyway.
But the key part is the capture, storage, and safe release of it back
temporarily.
out in the process that it does. Absolutely, yeah. But there's only going to be so much that there is. But I think it's that when it's captured and released back at a different rate is the key part too.
I don't know. I have very strong feelings about this, and I've known about it for about 30 seconds. So
I respect about you. Yeah.
Everybody has very strong feelings about it, and mostly it's coming because the market's going to happen regardless. And my objective is to make sure that farmers and ranchers don't get screwed in the process of it. So that's
where my mind first goes. Like, oh, look at these dumb hicks. We're going to come in and we're probably going to try to sublease it out and give you $1 when I can make 10 on it because I know how to market it and you're just some dumbass. Yep.
There's a huge supply and demand issue, and they're going to tell the farmer they're going to give them a flat rate, and then they're going to trade that up because there's more demand for offsetting carbon than there is actually carbon being sequestered. So every verifiable ton of carbon that you can sequester and measure and observe, there's going to be a growing market for it. It's going to be above the $60 that they're kicking down to the farmer and rancher for creating.
Yeah, another reason that Billy Gates is buying a bunch of farmland.
Yeah.
So if you have thousands of acres of unproductive land, could you theoretically figure out some way to capture carbon with that land and generate a good return?
Yes.
It's all about the highest and best use of that land. So
too bad we sold our 5,000 acres.
That'll teach you. Yeah, never get rid of dirt. I can say that because we've done the same thing. But yeah.
Anyways,
it's certainly interesting as hell. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating, and the thing about it is that what happened?
Oh, Joel's like product placing wine now in the podcast or whatever it is. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Like, this right here. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Anyways, back to the carbon story and the grass-fed organization. I took a trip up to Boise this weekend and did a little filming, and they asked me to come up and film one of our farmers that grows cover crops, that goes cash crops, and he grows cover crops that we can graze in the winter keep our grass-fed costs down, keep them on good feed. And so come up and see Chris up here, see what he's doing, and we'll show you his solar panels. So I was like, well, that'll be great. I said, so I pull up to Grandview, Idaho, expecting to see about maybe maybe 1,000 square feet of solar panels alongside of a ditch running a pump. Pull up 10 massive solar arrays on these big pivoting things, and they're tracking the sun, and they're producing enough power to run two 40 horsepower pumps. A lot of people don't realize this. One of the major draws on power in the world is pumps. They think that 1/3 of all the power created in the world goes just to running pumps.
1/3?
Yeah.
Holy buckets.
So if you look at any irrigation district that runs on pumps, that is always going to be one of your largest expenses. So he made a deal and he fronted a lot of it to pay for the infrastructure of this massive solar arrays so that he can bank. He doesn't get paid for the carbon that he creates when he's not using it, but he banks carbon for the peak times when he's using the pumps. And he has
electricity?
Huh?
You said carbon. He's not banking carbon, is he?
He's banking electricity. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So when he goes to
scattered me for a second there.
When he goes to run his pivots and he runs these pumps during the peak time of the year, all that power that those solar arrays have kept when he's not running the pumps and it's been pumping it back into the grid, he gets credit for that. So it's basically a wash and it cuts down his biggest expense during the year. And then what he did is he made all the investment, but he recouped it in what he gained in not having that power bill and some tax write-offs and some grants and that kind of stuff. And I was just blown away, and it was amazing. And he's done a cover crop for us with forage corn and alfalfa, peas, and Timothy all in the same plot.
Oh, kids.
And this was some farmland that wasn't as productive as some people had wanted it to be, and sort of they'd ridden it off. And in 3 years, he's got a mat. You can't even see the dirt. There's a mat of organic matter over the top of it, which is like, even if you have like a mat that covers 70% of it with so much dirt, that's a huge win in agriculture. But when you have a mat that like you have to pull apart to get to the dirt, and then you get to the dirt and it's just fluffy and light. It did have a little bit of sand in it, but it has that has a lot of organic material. You can tell the bugs.
And smell. Yeah.
It's not compact. It was super exciting to see, and only like a soil dork. And I don't even understand soil as much as most people, some of the people that I run around with. And
it's holding a lot of moisture too, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, it's just incredible.
That's amazing.
And our figuring right now is by doing this, and we're doing it in Kansas and we're doing it in Idaho, we think we're dropping our feed cost in the winter by $1 a day.
Wow.
Which is huge.
Which is one of your biggest expenses of having a cow.
Yeah. So right now it's been 4 days since it's been 3 days since I got back from Idaho, and I'm still on cloud 9, and I had nothing to do with it. My cows are there. I got to see my cows grazing on it, but super exciting. And it's one of those things that people said was impossible to scale grass fed. And we get to have a little moment of I told you so. And so we're all super excited about it, and looking for and we now have farmers volunteering to do cover crops and no-till drill and make their lands available for the cattle in the winter and fall. So couldn't be more excited.
Oh, it's outstanding. Yeah. Wow.
Interesting.
So that was my week. It was a good week.
It's gonna be a tough week to follow up and beat, but I know you probably will. So that's even better, That's damn cool.
Yeah.
Especially I've been looking into solar a lot since I'm in the RITA too, because the way my house is oriented is really good for solar. Plus, when you're not using it, you can either store it or put it back in the grid. So It's pretty
There's
intriguing.
there's an interesting new word I learned. Agrivoltaics.
Mm.
So it is the combination of anything agriculture and solar energy. That is like grazing sheep underneath solar panel
Okay.
or offsetting different agriculture costs with solar panels. So it's this new fledgling buzzword that I think you'll be hearing a lot more. It's agrivoltaics.
I like it. Yeah, it sounds like a German speed metal band too. It's pretty cool.
Yep.
Joel's like, I think I
Sure.
saw them at downtown a couple weeks ago. Yeah. They opened for Sprockets. Yeah.
Sure, Micah.
Get you some of that, Mr. Joel. Get you some of that. Yeah.
I want to get in the carbon credit business.
Jump on in.
What do I need? I just need, all I need is land. Is that
Well,
right?
there's a lot of
Access to
people.
land. Yeah.
There's a lot of people trying to figure out how they can do it without land or capital or any risk at all. So you could join them, or you could get some land and be a real player.
All right, I'll get some land. I know, or you can get pretty cheap land.
You gotta be able to do something with it too, though. Yeah. But almost any land's gonna be good land at some point in this life. So that's
Yes.
my opinion. They're still not making any more that I'm aware of. So yeah. Well, Joel, to tag onto your thing, I went to the doctor for the first time in let's just say a while myself, and got a physical. Got a new doctor here in the Gainesville area, and still trying to get my ear figured out from New Year's. I'm still walking around like a drunken toddler about half the time. So but my doctor is she is about 5'1", and she's from Japan. And I didn't have to get naked till the very end. And then, we did the, the finger. So, but yeah, I got to be in my street clothes until then, at least. So I didn't have to do the getting a robe and sit in the paper. So
Is she cute?
I guess she had a mask on the whole time. But I mean, like, yeah, she's
Nice way to do it.
very cool. Very good questions. Very, very, very attentive. Took great notes. Just a good demeanor about her. I was pretty impressed. And yeah, good doc. Yeah. So I was happy.
The getting naked thing is, like I said, it's like, I'm not gonna do it. They put the gown out on the thing. They take your clothes off. You can leave your underwear on. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I took my pants off, but I'm not gonna take my shirt off and all that stuff. Like, leave me alone.
Leave me alone.
And then it turns out that I didn't even need to have my pants off. I don't get it. Like, the guy wouldn't even look at my hernia. Just trying to get him to take a peek.
It's like, I'm not sure if you know this or not, but I'm a podiatrist. I don't know why you have your pants off.
Look,
but
Doc, I got my pants off already. Like, the hard part's done.
I'm a psychologist, Mr. Curran. I'm not sure what you're doing naked in my office. Yeah, but for the last time, yeah. Take off my
An
shirt.
idea where we can start, though.
Yeah, exactly. No wonder I got in so easy to see him. Yeah. And she asked me, she goes, "You want a flu shot?" I said, "No." "Do you ever get a flu shot?" "No." "We have the Rona too, if you want that." "No." "Okay." So yeah, blood pressure is pretty good. I think resting heart rate was I think it was 61, which is pretty good for being at the doctor, I think. So especially
Mine's
for
like 95.
What's wrong with you, man? Yeah, I mean,
That's the anxiety. That's why I
yeah,
got
it
the
has to
beta
be.
blocker.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because I'm not a svelte human, so I should, I think BP was like 121 over 78. The bottom one. That's a little high. Yeah. But I need to watch it. Yeah. We did some cool calculations based on my cholesterol and my age and my blah, blah, blah. And if I don't change anything, I got about a 3% chance of heart attack. If I lower my blood pressure a little bit and everything else, about a 1% chance. So
Per day, or
per day. Yeah, add them all. So by the end of the month, I'm pretty much tits up. Yeah. Schmuck. Yeah.
I know anything about gambling odds.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not good.
To lower it from a 3% chance to a 1% chance is good. I like those odds. So
They didn't tell me that information.
you should come check my doctor out. I think she's good. Yeah. So, and you'll have to get naked at the very end, which is not bad. It's still awkward because you're turned around and grabbing the table, and there's somebody still talking behind you, and then only one hand on the shoulder, which is good. Yeah, and then a quick.
They put a hand on your shoulder. They do that.
She didn't even, there's no way she can even reach my shoulder, dude. She's literally like 5 foot tall, if that. Yeah.
When do they start that?
6'2",
Like
bent
40?
over the table. Huh?
When do they start doing this? 40, 45?
Yeah, around 40, I think. I always requested it earlier, but that's a different story altogether. But
I mean, when she did, is it like, you can be honest with us, just us. Does it feel kind of good? Or?
It's just us. It's quite quick. Yeah. She's like, okay, well, let's see. No visible hemorrhoids, and your sphincter is tight, and prostate feels pretty good. Okay, that's good. That's it. And I was like, okay, thanks, doc. Yeah. So it's a pretty quick procedure in that regard. Yeah, I've never.
There's no way I would go to the guy doctor for that. I would have to go to
You see, I didn't even pick
girl doctor.
a girl. I had a girl doctor. That sounds so awful. I had a physician in Lincoln too, just by accident. I was like, whoever's available. And then same thing here. I was looking online. I'm like, oh, that guy's got some good ratings. So I'm like, hey, I want to I need an appointment with Dr. Huffenputz or whatever. Like, oh, he's not taking any new patients. And I'm like, well, you should probably update the website then because it says he is. Oh, well, Dr. So-and-so is. You want me to see if she'll take any new patients? And I'm like, please? Yeah. So then like 2 days later, yeah, she'll take you on as a patient and we can get you in like a month. I'm like, awesome. So that was Monday. Yeah. So she's a good doctor apparently, but yeah, it was just but still, yeah, here's some Kleenex if you want to clean up. And I'm like, yeah, the money's on the dresser, so that was... I wasn't even going to talk about that, but I heard about your experience and I'm like, well, what are the odds we both get a physical the same week? That's pretty funny.
Yeah, we should have made a podcast out of it.
Could have. Yeah, they did that on Bob and Tom. They call it Proctober. And Chick McGee got an exam on the air one time. It's pretty funny. That didn't cross my mind. Yeah, there was a lot of things crossing my mind, but that's not one of them. Yeah, so just you don't know when she's gonna like attack. Like you're turned around. She's like, okay, go ahead and undo your pants and drop your underwear. And then turn around and face the bench and bend over and I grab that. I'm like, okay. And then she's like, okay. And I'm just back here getting ready. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means, And then she's like, okay, here I come. Basically, like,
say cheese.
Basically, yeah. So, anyways, enough of Ask Man talk. But no, it's good. So you got to make sure everything's running all right. So it was good. Good checkup. Yeah. Some things to improve on, but overall, not too bad considering. Yeah. So not exactly, Olympic swimmer body, but we're doing okay. So just saying, oh, quick too, guys, since I think, according to my random schedule that runs through my head, I think the next entertainment spotlight was going to go to Mr. Raleigh. But if he doesn't show up, we might have to kick it to Richard. I think would you be next? I think so. I'll just give you some heads now in case Ralls texts in or calls or shows up. We don't want to leave the gang hanging. I don't want to spring it on you last moment like best thing of the week. So let that float around your head a little bit. But yeah, that was a good reach around, guys. That not bad. That was most of our podcast already. We were basically through the first segment, but hey, we can skip some stuff. We can do whatever. This is our podcast. That's the great thing about it. And while I'm thinking about it, see, I want to give another shout out to Mr. Bob O'Rourke. Word got through the grapevine about our podcast and that we were talking about Bob. And so Bob's been listening. Bob's a huge fan of podcasts and just gathering knowledge and reading and everything. So Bob's been listening. So Bob, this is Wells Cargo. We hope you listen in perpetuity, my good sir. And that's an inside joke between Bob and myself. So I had to share that to him, but couldn't be prouder to have Bob even know that we exist and what we're doing. So that's pretty cool.
Hopefully he'll learn a thing or two from listening
It's
to us.
about time. Yeah. I mean, at this point, anything's going to be good. So, what can you do? I mean, shed some light on his little life. And yeah, it's I can't even say that with a straight face. Yeah. There's nothing. I got to tell the quick story too about that. We've always, obviously I wasn't around for this, but Bob and a local doctor in Pendleton had like a long standing, like a prank war. They would like steal each other's letterhead and all this kind of stuff. And I've heard a lot of these stories, but one of my all-time favorites is this doctor took out like a full-page ad in the Pendleton newspaper. And it says, the surprise birthday party for Bob O'Rourke has been canceled due to lack of interest, So, I mean, it's just like good old-fashioned, simple, like, I'm going to get you stuff like that. So that's just one of the many stories I remember that for sure. But
it's a hilarious prank.
It's the best, dude. Yeah, they used to mess with each other. Like the doc, they were duck hunting, I think, on the ice, or maybe goose hunting. Anyways, they were hunting waterfowl. It's wintertime on the ice. There's 3 or 4 of them. Doc's over there wandering around like, Doc, quack. They call him Quack. That ice is thin. Get away from there, man. Whatever. And sure as hell, he goes through the ice in his waders, so he's freaking drowning. So they crawl out there, and the first thing he says is, throw me your wallet. That's just like such good friends. So, that's the stories we got to hear when we're sitting around the Elks having some pontification. And so, anyways, that's Bob. So glad to know you're out there listening. We love you and can't thank you enough for that. So, with that, we'll kick into our quick entertainment spotlight. It's one reason I gave a little extra time between podcasts because we were, I had the book Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, and it is lengthy. It goes by fast if you listen to it. Richard, if you're driving all the way to Bulgaria and back, you might be able to get through it all. But I like it because it's he's got a great story. I think if you're listening to it on the audio version, especially, it's cool to hear the guy who helped him write it also reads it, and then they'll stop and have little intermissions when he kind of tells some backstory. So, you guys get to listen to it at all?
No.
I have to confess, I failed. I really wanted to do it, and I can't make any good excuse.
It's like I don't even know you anymore. No, I fully expected that because it is a lengthy, and it's good to be able to devote some time to it. So I wanted to throw it out there for that. I figured we wouldn't all get through it. I didn't even get through it all myself, but I've obviously listened to it a few times already. But it's definitely something good. Even if you listen 30 minutes or an hour a day, just to listen to his life story growing up. And then when he gets into the military, a little spoiler, he goes through Hell Week to get in the SEALs 3 times in 1 year. Most people can't even do it once. All 3 times he gets to the very end of Hell Week. And then they goes into the rest of Bud's training for SEALs. That alone is absolute insanity. And that's the beginning of his mental adventure, because it's really about, ultimately, it's about how he has his mind trained to let him do things that most people just shake their head. He literally ran on broken legs the whole time in Buds. He would duct tape them up, duct tape a sock, duct tape a sock, duct tape a sock, and go run.
I heard his interview on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, that's where I first heard about him. Yeah, he's got 2 on Rogan.
I thought it was really weird that Lex, I can't remember what Lex's last name is. He's on Rogan all the time too, and he's from MIT. Has a great podcast. I'm trying to find it right now. Anyways, he gets to interview Elon Musk and all these great academic minds, and Jordan Peterson, and he just did one with John Keller, who I've never heard of, who worked for Intel and designed microprocessing chips. Quite possibly one of the smartest human beings I've ever heard talk on the radio or on a podcast. And but Lex was just opining about Goggins and like said how of all the guests he had, he was the most inspirational. And like he asked himself, would Goggins give up? And obviously he never gives
No,
up.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
That's I couldn't agree more. I think anybody who's read his stuff or heard him, that goes through your mind when you're doing almost anything. Like, would Goggins give up? That's a better trade right there. We definitely upgraded from Joel. Yeah.
She's just going in for some wine.
Can't blame her, but we'll take the upgrade anytime. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So, you can just listen to him on one of the Rogan podcasts or anywhere else too. His mindset, he speaks quite frankly, which I appreciate also, but then to hear, he goes a lot about growing up and how, some stuff that hit me just the other day. He's like how he had to accept all of that stuff before he could move on. Like he thought he could just plow it over and it'd be okay because I'm a SEAL and I'm doing this. Like, no, I got stuff I got to address, like mentally, health wise, and get in check before I can really go do anything else. I'm like, you're already achieving at 10 times the level of the average moron, and you're still realizing that you're not where you need to be. So, yeah.
And what does he do
recommend it
now?
enough. I think
What
now
does
he
he
does a lot of. I think he still runs. I think. But it does a lot of speaking and stuff also, I think, in the book, of course, too. But he really got into ultra marathons and those endurance races after he got out of the military. And at one point, he finds out his heart's basically trash. Also, so that's another whole. I probably spoiled that alert, but like he should have been dead 100 times over already because he has an awful heart and they get that fixed. But yeah, he does a lot of ultra marathons, which are like 100-some-mile races as well. But and then for a long time also too, he was chasing the pull-up record.
Oh yeah.
So and even the story about that, like he tries that 2 or 3 times, I think, and the skin literally rolling off his hands from so many pull-ups and how to get through all that. But yeah, that's when it's cold mornings and when I would be up in South Dakota or Lincoln and I'd be going for a walk or run like early in the morning and it's ass cold and it's snowing and I'm like, I got to listen to Dave though, because he sure as hell would be out here, and I got ice in my beard and stuff. And I was like, this is awesome, So it really, you're right when you said like, would Dave give up? No. And so it's a pretty cool thing.
Well, I'm sorry I didn't read it. I felt obligated to start on the Bill Gates book. And
Yeah.
I can guarantee you after slogging through that book, I'm going to be happy to have an inspirational, uplifting book because
yeah, no doubt.
Bill
Maybe
Gates' book so far is his heart is in the right place, but it's crap tackle.
Yeah.
Is in the book. I saw Bill Gates in the news. He's in the news way too much, by the way, but
yeah,
he's just in the news again with he said people shouldn't eat animal meat or something, right?
People in developed countries should eat fake meat basically because we can afford it and it's better for resources.
Why is he in the news so much? This guy needs to go. Same with Fauci. He needs to go
because
away.
there is no news.
That's a big part of it. They're talking about what people think they ought to talk about, and there's not much else. They want to detract from other things as much as possible. So, yeah, it's all about divide and conquer, Mr. Joel, if I really want to get up in the black helicopter of conspiracy. So, yeah.
So you guys want to get into the conspiracy stuff at all today?
We could in a minute, yeah, for sure. Yeah. You can do that.
There's a huge news vacuum with Trump being gone.
Yes.
The press must just be salivating, waiting for CPAC next week when he makes his first public appearance.
Again. Besides the parades and stuff down here, they did actually ask what's her dick like a semi-pointed question the other day about the detention camps. He's like, it's the same thing that was going on when you guys said that Trump was putting kids in cages. It's the same exact thing. What's the difference?
What'd she say?
Nothing.
Of course.
Circle back to it.
She did.
What are these people doing? They aren't doing anything. They don't talk to the media. They don't tell us anything. Even just tell us something controversial.
It's extremely like it's so funny. I just sent this on and I didn't go ultra validate it, but it's a good source where I got it from. But like there's the White House YouTube page and like comments are disabled and like they showed like 4 or 5 different little speeches that Biden had given. And on average, it was like let's say 500 thumbs up, maybe, and you're and like 6 to 10,000 thumbs down on the post. And they had comments turned off.
Wow.
And I get slews of lefties on their Twitter like, I can't fucking believe we did this. Like, it's worse than we ever thought it would be. Like, obviously it's fucking way too late, but and everybody's gonna forget anyways. But yeah, I'm waiting for more of these executive orders to get through the court system, for sure. I just saw a thing this evening where a business owner and his lawyer in California are like, hey, Governor Wickdick, Pound Sand, we're opening our restaurant. We know better. You don't know a thing. It's our right. And I could not agree more. Like the fact that we ever let anybody in the government tell us what was essential, what should be open, what shouldn't. Like it's the people's choice, man. Like if my business is open and nobody wants to come in because they don't feel safe, that's on me, seriously. But why is there anybody, or if I want to go to a sporting event or anything else, like whose call is that? Like seriously, if the government's that concerned about our health, they ought to be swatting the Big Macs out of your fucking hand every time you go through the drive-through. Like there's the true, health scare in America. It's not something that 99.9% of people survive. Let's say it again. So, it's not about that. It's about control. So.
There was a really good,
I think
quick little video. What?
Go ahead, Joel. Then Richard can jump in.
Oh, there was a video that quickly made its rounds on Twitter either yesterday or today of Ron Paul in the 80s on a talk show, and I think it was what I can gather, it was like Ron Paul is a libertarian, so he's against all sorts of government influence, including like drug enforcement and stuff. And they wanted government intervention. There was one guy, and Ron Paul said to this guy, "He's like, you look a little overweight. Looks like, do you want the government to tell you what to eat?" Right?
Yeah. Oh, of course not. But listen, Scooter. That surely happened in New York. Like, who was the guy? Was it Bloomberg? You can't have like 170-ounce soda pop or whatever. You have 230,
yeah.
But you can't buy a 70-ouncer. Yeah. So, hey, Richard, what was your comment?
Oh, I just thought I wanted to mention that DeSantis, your governor, had the best sign off with Biden on a first call.
Yeah.
Matt props to that guy.
Yeah.
Joel's governor, however, seems to be like on his way to the big house. So I'll be interested to see how it works.
It's been interesting. Yeah. So for those of you who don't follow along or get texts and tweets from me, Governor DeSantis in Florida's like told Biden to go fuck himself. That was his first sign off, which I thought he must be a far reaches fan. And
he's not, Mike is not even lying. Those are his words verbatim, I guess.
Yes. Cause it was giving him hell about, Biden had brought up the fact that he might start restricting travel from Florida. It's like, so it's xenophobic if Trump's going to shut down people coming in from China, like the source of where this thing came from. And he's like, you're going to restrict domestic travel? And he's like, what's your plan for this, Joe? And he's like, you need to call me President Biden or whatever. He's like, you can go fuck yourself. And he hung up the phone. And I was like, man, that guy just went up like 15 points, dude. Easily. Yeah. I'm like, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I like that guy.
But yeah, and then Cuomo's coming under fire because people started chirping on that. And I think once that balance tips where you got liberals pecking on him too, like de Blasio threw him right under the bus, like instantly, like, yeah, that's classic Cuomo.
Well, their entire relationship has been dicey. This like a power. Cuomo is definitely likes the power and kind of undermines Biden every chance he gets, or not Biden, de Blasio.
De Blasio, yeah.
And yeah, I've always thought Cuomo was just such a slimy fucking greaseball connected mafioso wannabe, or maybe he really is. I don't know, but like
Yeah.
the liberals that love this guy, like, why do you like this guy? He asks rhetorical questions. I hate people who ask rhetorical questions.
Extremely arrogant. Like, just when you watch
Yeah.
his press, like, just beyond arrogant. And like, the fact that they were just slobbing his knob during this entire COVID thing with the Emmy. I don't know how you even win an Emmy for what he was doing. I guess he was really acting his ass off now that I think about it. He wrote a book about leadership during COVID. Like, would you even have time to write a book during COVID if you had such good leadership? You know, and then now everybody, even AOC, my hot lefty girlfriend, she was like, we got to look into this. And it sounds like Republicans and Democrats in the state assembly are saying the same thing. So,
well, he's a bully, I guess.
yeah.
And it wasn't that long, maybe like 2 or 3 months ago, there was this, I don't even remember who the woman is, but she accused him of sexual harassment. And that just got swept aside so quickly as like, oh, she's doing it.
Yeah.
The Democrats were saying, oh, it's just political. Like what happened to like believing them? Like, and now it's it's so clear that of course he did that. He yells at people and he harasses them he's just such a slime ball.
He's gonna look really small standing next to Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
Yang.
Yeah. Get your Yang on. Andrew Lang, I think, was a basketball player. Anyways, yeah, but Yang, I think he's got a chance. It'd be interesting. Anything's better than that whistle dick bastard. But yeah, because he threatened a junior Democratic representative too, something like I will completely kill your career or something like that too. And hey, we got Scraptosaurus in the background joining us again. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's starting to pile. I think there comes a tipping point, if you will, where like, yeah, everybody's pretty much in agreement, like that it's not a partisan deal. Like, we have to look into this.
I can feel like the feelings of New Yorkers is shifting a little bit, like the temperature in the room. And I think Yang started out very strong, but I think it's fading quickly because he's really out of touch. Like I sent you that video of the guy just absolutely beating the shit out of the Asian delivery driver.
Yeah.
On the bicycle with the baseball bat.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, Yang is tweeting photos and he was standing under, for example, he tweeted a photo underneath a street. So there's like a gay street in New York. And he's under the street sign being like, yeah, man, of course you're not homophobic. Nobody's accusing you of like homophobic.
Like,
we have bigger problems.
What you're gonna do, man? Like, seriously, people. I think we saw this in the last election for sure. People are starved for honest leadership. There's a point where it becomes too honest, but I think just honest leadership. Like, I believe this. I think this has to happen, and here's why. Like, here's my thoughts. Here's my plan. I really think, like, as most humans would, they're like, that sounds like an idea. Either I like it or I don't, but at least I know how this person's thinking and where they're coming from, for God's sake. Like, what are you going to do? Like, I certainly hope anyways, people are looking for more substance besides, like, I'd like to point out that we have the first female Treasury Secretary. Yeah, I don't care. What are they doing? I have a chipmunk in there as long as they're making good choices, for God's sake. Just saying. I mean, like, again, it's about what are you doing? Who judging you by your merits and what you get accomplished. I don't care what you try to do or what your hopes are. I don't give a shit.
Tucker Carlson brought up a really good point on his show tonight. I only watched a little bit of it. It's like opening, but what?
I'm just thinking back to, like, I don't know, what was it, 15 years ago when I met you, or maybe longer? Those fucking words would have never come out of your mouth. But anyways, proceed. Yeah.
No, I even feel like I don't know how much I changed versus they've changed.
They definitely got a left wheel in the ditch, man. There's no doubt about it. But yeah. Good. What was Tucker yapping about? I missed it. I was on the phone.
So it's about controlling the narrative. And most of the media is so concerned about racial issues mostly.
I saw the graph. That's what he was talking about.
But then let's talk about they've and if you do like a Google search of like when did this become a big topic, it became a big topic right around the time of Occupy Wall
Occupy.
Street, when people really started trying to pay attention to the largesse of Wall Street, essentially. Started asking questions about the wealth gap, and it's like kind of a distraction from that. Like, and you brought up a good point. Like, what happened? I don't know how many trillions of dollars we printed. If you go back to the financial crisis and we had to do the bail out the banks that sparked Occupy Wall Street in the first place. And what was that? It was like $700 billion. And that seemed like all the money in the world.
Yeah.
They that
There's a
is a
receipt, man.
blip.
Yeah.
That is a rounding error with what they're doing right now. And
Yeah,
where is all this? Nobody's asking the question, where is all this fucking money going? And the people are only getting, how much have they got in total? So I think that, how much have people gotten in stimulus checks?
$1,800.
$1,800 is all?
Yeah. Oh, wait.
Wow, you know, is it two? Well, I think is it 1,400 coming up
12 and
supposedly
6.
this next time? There was 600 once for sure.
But they haven't. Biden hasn't even done the 1,400 extra.
No.
Like, what's going on? What's happening? I don't know what's happening with that. But
the current bill, I think, in the House is like for $1.9 trillion, and well over one something, according to Wall Street Journal, over $1 trillion has nothing directly to do with COVID.
Well,
that's the
way
Wall Street
more than
Journal
a
saying that.
way more than $1 trillion.
It's like 1.4 million or something, like, or trillion is nothing to do directly with COVID relief.
Well, or for the people, if like total, there's been like, I want to say something like $5 trillion or 6 trillion has been printed in the last year, and they've only given people probably, I don't know, half a trillion of that has gone to the people, other than unemployment benefits. That because they did boost that a lot, people who were unemployed. But where's the rest of that? Where's most of that going? And that's what New York Times should be talking about, not.
I Ted Cruz going to Cancun.
Still 1.7 trillion. Still 1.7 trillion dollars that hasn't been spent yet.
Yeah.
Man,
that's ridiculous. Yeah, I think
I might spend it. I'll take advantage of it. All you got to do is put some money in the stock market, and that's going to go up as long as they're doing this.
There's that. Yeah, people lose sight of the fact that it's not the government's money. Like, really, it's because it's fake. It's nobody's money. But in theory, it comes from the people already. The government doesn't produce shit. You know, they don't make anything. It all comes from us. That's the whole point. And people forget that. I know damn well politicians forget that. That's the whole bass backwards approach to all of this crap. But, you know, and it's always, this is going to crap. Oh, look over at this shiny thing, or look at this. Like, I saw that graph you were talking to that was on Tucker. And in 2011, I think, or so, the usage of the word racism like went up like 20-fold on average since then, you know, and that's just the beginning. And I saw him, he was playing all the media clips about, I can't think of the guy's name, in Wisconsin, and they said unarmed black man, unarmed black man, unarmed black man, like 30 times on all these different shows. They interviewed the guy and he's like, yeah, I had my knife. And he fully admits that he was definitely armed, but the narrative has been to preach racism and hate and all these other things, and like divide us up so we're fighting amongst ourselves, and so they can go do whatever they're doing on the side right now. That's the whole point. I think Tucker's made several times, and we've talked about too. It's like, it's never about what they say it's about. None of the shit.
And I think he alluded to it, but he didn't go into any depth on it. But, and I agree with it, is that there is racism in this country, and the racism would be unequal outcomes in the court of law. So, and that's been proven over and over. If you're in court for the same crime with like a black guy, the black guy is going to get a worse outcome, and that's fucked up.
That's absolutely, yeah.
But they don't talk about that. that's not what they're focusing on the left. But that should probably be.
Because that would actually be a real affirmative change, but that's going to impact their little happy world way too much. Just like I did catch this part when he was talking about, I guess this is the Tucker Carlson Review Hour. Basically, the stronghold that, and we've talked about the education too. Like if you go to Harvard, if you go to Yale, if you go to Princeton, like if it's truly about change, they should be taking no people that have ever had college in their background ever before to really turn that upside down. If you want equality and shifting the narrative, that's where it goes. You put the whole new system of people going into Harvard, it's not going to happen because what do they call it? They call it the caste system, I think is what it was. It's pretty impressive. It's never about what they say it's about. Don't ever forget that. And that's not black helicopter shit. That's just looking around and being like, "Durr, what happened in 2 weeks, man? We're coming up on the 1 year anniversary. Remember that?" Yeah, saying.
2 weeks to flatten the curve is almost a year ago.
Fucking thing we've ever done in our entire lives is giving up that and be like, yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, you know what I did this last week? I guess another thing I've done is since our last podcast, I've decided to, for the most part, get rid of the face mask when I'm outside.
Yeah.
And it feels, for a while, it felt very uncomfortable because everybody has it on. Nobody's said anything to me yet, but I just feel like somebody's going to say something to me. And I'm like, what am I going to say back?
America. Like air. It's
like, dude, you're outside. Calm down.
Totally. Yeah.
But we've been so easily, what's the word? So easily socialized or conditioned.
Yeah.
So easily conditioned in New York that masks are mandatory, and if you don't wear it, you're actively trying to kill people.
It's one of the biggest security blankets I've ever seen.
But sometimes you just wear it because it's cold out.
That's fine. I mean, wrap your scarf around your head. That's okay. Whatever. Again, if you want to wear a mask, I don't give a shit. I'm going to think you're ridiculous. That's okay. But, this is all like, it boils down to the simple fact that this is all about choice and all about freedom. And that's two things they don't want anything to do with. But the government has zero responsibility for telling us if we can go to a business or if it can be open or not. It's our choice. Seriously. They have no control over this. They should not have any input whatsoever about where we go and what we do and if my business is open or not. That's step number one, where we slipped on that banana peel way back then. Like this essential versus non-essential business too, like makes my head explode. But it's about choice. Like if I want to go to a store and they're open, fine. If I don't feel comfortable with that, that's my choice. Like seriously, it went way off on the wrong track way back then, because it's not their job at all. It's never been about their job. It's our responsibility. That's it.
Yeah, and I can't even keep up with the mixed messages coming from Biden and Fauci about this thing. One day they're like, I think there's a new clip of Fauci out saying like, yeah, even after you get your vaccine, like, don't expect that you're going to be able to go out to dinner or go to a movie or socialize in groups. We're still in talks of seeing what people will be able to do.
God,
what's happening?
He's one dude. Like this is the country of a representative republic. He's one asshole. Like screw you, man. Like look around. Like there's states everywhere they're telling people to go pound sand. We're gonna go do what we want, and that's what it's all about. It's gonna keep the tide's gonna keep turning because like they're playing their cards, man. It's just like people aren't buying it anymore. They should not be buying it at all. It's nothing to do with him whatsoever. If you think about when he first talked about it, if you want to listen to what that little bastard says, like you shouldn't be wearing masks. That's ridiculous. Nobody needs to wear a mask. And recently, maybe even 3. Like, are you out of your ever-loving gourd, man? Like, who's checking this guy for sanity? And who's checking us for even listening to what he has to say? It's like, that's one person. That's ridiculous. Seriously. And if any doctors have any dissenting opinions, like they are immediately crushed. And that's also
Yeah, that was the other thing Tucker
concerning,
was talking
like-
about, is a disinformation. So segment was on disinformation about how this push by the media, and this came up on Clubhouse. It's like, you can't have Clubhouse because how we can get fact checkers in there. Like,
yeah, that's not your job, dude. We don't need fact checkers. Like, who's fact checking you? That's my job. I fact check. That's me.
it's becoming more and more of a de facto state controlled media, whereas you have to toe this party line of what our CDC or whoever it is, whatever they say, which is a clearly political organization at this point. And if you don't mirror that, we're going to remove you from your platform.
Yeah.
That's state controlled media. That's no better than China.
Yeah. When other former Eastern Bloc countries, i.e. Poland, are looking at these things like, guys, this is wrong. Your freedom of speech is completely gone. Like, Eastern Bloc countries are looking at us going, you guys are screwed. What are you doing? Like, they've been there. They know it. Like, they're the ones pointing it out. How sad is that? That's ridiculous.
The sad thing is, there's nothing you can do about it.
I think you have to keep believing in the human spirit and just keep pushing on, because like it's got to turn. I mean, I don't know, but that's what my Pollyanna says. Like, yeah, people have to keep standing up. Like I saw the guy on Tucker tonight, like him and his lawyer, like, we're staying open. Like, we're not wearing a mask. Like, talk on football. There'll be full stadiums this summer, or baseball. Like, it's outside. We have all these people vaccinated. We have all the numbers are static or going down. We certainly are trending toward what people would call herd immunity. Pound sand, like, seriously. What
I think
really
it's interesting
really there, Richard.
I just think it's interesting the perspective that you have based on your geographic location. I cannot even imagine how suffocating New York must be. In the most remote part of the lower 48 states, I don't even worry about Fauci. I don't worry about masks. I don't worry about any of that stuff. I went to Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
Other than to get into the restaurant, nobody gave a crap if we had a mask on or anything. Not going into the convenience stores, not going into the grocery stores. It just not even a factor. Just a totally, it's got to be such a night and day different world than New York.
Yeah, you're so right. Yeah.
Yeah, it brings up a lot of different issues. Whereas like New York is kind of the media capital of the world, so all the news is out of here, and they're living that lifestyle where you outside, 99 out of 100 people have a mask on, out walking around on the street. Which, if you're in any other part of the country except for maybe LA or San Francisco, it just seems insane, right?
Yeah.
But here it's totally normal. And if you were to pick up somebody in my neighborhood and drop them in your neighborhood, they would think you guys are fucking crazy people. You and your guns.
Still here though. Yeah.
Trying to kill grandmas and whatever. Yeah, I think, but the media people that set the national agenda are immersed in this New York City lifestyle.
They're eating their own shit there for sure. Yeah. What was it, last week or week before? There was the huge story about the store in Florida where nobody was wearing a mask. It's like, duh. Yeah.
Well, but the media reaches far and wide because, like, especially amongst the younger demographics in Idaho, I didn't see anybody. I can't put a real good age on it, but I'd say I didn't see anybody over 35 wearing a mask. Everybody 35 and below, probably 3 out of 5 people were wearing masks voluntarily.
Yeah.
So, and which is odd because it's the demographic least at risk, other than Richard, who's 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's a statement, isn't it? People are making a statement
weird,
doing it.
It's a weird psychological statement might not be too. Statement's not right. It's not the right word. It's a psychological giving in.
Yeah, I think there's
it's
probably some
capitulating.
security blanket to it also. Like, oh, I feel so good. I have my mask on. I'm safe. I don't have to worry. Unless there's somebody
Think
around without a
about
mask.
what that generation's been taught is that everybody's the same. Everybody, you don't want to overachieve. You don't want to be the tall poppy.
Mhm.
So the best way to have that anonymity is to remove all the features of their expressions. And the great equalizer is when this is all that everybody sees of everybody.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, spooky as
if
hell, man.
you just think of how much body language communication is not conveyed when you're using a mask. Just think of the relationship ties that are severed by. So it plays into everything that generation has been taught in our school systems, and it makes them feel good because they've been made to feel bad for so long about their whatever circumstance they are in their life, they have in their life. So by wearing the mask, they finally can achieve the anonymity that has been preached to them for so long.
And they're probably just going to communicate by their phone anyways and never look up as it is. Fits right into your day pretty well.
Yeah, and if you don't, another thing about it here is if you don't follow those rules, like it affects your social life. Like people who are your friends, well, they're like, oh, I'm not going to hang out with him because he doesn't wear a mask outside. Like,
Yeah, which
okay,
is
good.
not really a friend. Then.
Including, yeah. Well,
I mean, like I'd say, like if we were
they've
outside
just been
and
so
like,
socially conditioned to
and that's sad.
follow those rules that if you don't follow the rules yourself, then you must be QAnon or something.
Whatever the fuck that is. Yeah, like, seriously. Yeah. Can you point to that? Thank you. Yeah. Richard, you got something going in your head. Yeah.
I don't even know what that. Yeah, I don't even know what it is. So.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like if to lose a friend over something like that, or even like one step up, like politics, I think it's one of the saddest things and something that's really what's going wrong with what we do is like, well, like you and I, Joel, for example, like when we started out, like that's pretty much all we talked about. And we'd argue back and forth and cuss and discuss, but like we were still underneath friends. Like we respected each other enough to have a conversation about it, but we disagreed on a lot of stuff. But we kept yapping about it. And like that was almost what I looked forward to when you came to town. Like, sweet, let's go talk to Mr. Joel for a while,
People call me Commie Joel or
you're my favorite communist.
Commie bastard.
Favorite commie bastard. Yeah. Like
you guys, everybody called me that, and you guys all disagreed clearly, and I was pretty relatively left wing at the time because I was in college or just out of college. But
yeah,
like you guys didn't like hate on me for it. You pitch me shit, and I give you guys shit.
Joel's in town. Let's go talk because like it was always good conversation. We might disagree. You might point something out. I'm like, well, yeah, I guess you got a point there. I'll give you that. But like, what about this? But it was always just like it was part of our fun. It was like
that's also revisionist history back then. I don't know. I don't know if I regret my position back then because I think there was a time in Republicans' life that was you guys were some of them were fucking crazy, like the neo-Christian or whatever. Remember the Christianity was such a big thing?
Yeah, there's always the fringe of chaos on all
that
sides.
disgusted
like
me.
it's like people chaining themselves to trees for God's sake. When I was growing up, like that's ridiculous too. Like there's always going to be the extreme and no matter what. And that, I'm not just blanketly pushing that off. But my ultimate point was like this whole country is built on disagreement and discourse and discussion. That's ultimately the whole point about it is we have debates. We talk things out. We can disagree. Like we make our best point for it. Somebody said this the other day. It made such an awesome point to me. And I don't like to put people in liberal versus conservative buckets, but he made this point. He said, conservatives often look at a liberal and say, there's a good person with a bad idea, and liberals tend to look at conservatives and say, there's a bad person with a bad idea. Like it's completely like a whole nother level of hate and discontent, at least recently. And it's like, no, it's like, you're just still a good person. You just got a different idea. Like, we've totally lost track of that. Like, you can't disagree anymore. And that's so wrong. Like, that's what we're all about, is disagreeing and talking it through. And, oh yeah, well, screw you. Like, it's like, it's not this. I not like the term cancel culture drives me insane, but it's like, if you disagree with somebody, we're physically going after your well-being. Or the guy who was Trump's lawyer, like, people are painting shit in his driveway and like harassing his family. Or if you represent somebody they don't like, they harass your business and like try to run you out. Like, it's one thing to vote with your money, where you want to do business, but like physically assaulting people or harassing them for something that they believed in, completely legal, and you're going off the deep end. Like, that's absolutely insanity, and that's instantly to get somebody not to listen to what you have to say, in my mind.
Yeah.
Just saying, man. I mean, that's the track we've got down. It needs to.
Back in the Bush years, the big topic was gay marriage. Yeah, I think that was one of the driving forces, maybe why, looking back at it, was probably why I was a Democrat, because I always thought it was ridiculous that conservatives were telling somebody that they cannot do something. And now it's the Democrats telling people they cannot do something. But back then it was, no, you want to get married? Yeah, you can't. Like, go fuck yourself.
Of course they can get married. It's nobody's business, I think. I don't care. Like, and that ties really close to the biblical beliefs that, a man should not lay with another man. But I still think, A, it's a state right, for one, and B, it's nobody's damn business, for two. I think it is like, it's not your job to regulate what I do in my private time. It's really not. But that, a lot of that stemmed from not being legally recognized and not being able to get benefits for your partner, which I think is completely wrong too. But yeah, again, how crazy is this country gone when now the Republicans are talking about freedom of speech and rights?
Yeah.
Like, that's how far left the left is gone. It's shoved us over to the middle. Okay, come on.
And as contentious as that debate went over whether rights for marriage got, they were never in such a place that they got dropped off of buildings like they did in Iraq for their sexual preference. It was never elevated to that level. There, you didn't have to fear. Well, I should phrase this correctly. A great majority of people that chose alternative lifestyles were allowed to operate in normal society in all possible manners without fear of the majority were able to operate in regular society without fear of being killed.
Yeah, the majority. That's a good preface, because it definitely happens.
There was things, absolutely, yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, and that's, I think, it shows a good point about, I think, learning on a large scale too. That's pretty cool, and that's what we've always done. Like, everybody always, that's one of the favorite things to do, is just trash how shitty this place is. And I'm like, well, I really don't get where you're coming from, because if you can find a better spot anywhere in the world that's remotely doing what we do as far as freedoms and what people are treated like and what rights you have, then please point it out. And if nothing else, go there. But like, there's literally countries in Africa right now that still do slave trading to this day, at this very precise moment. So get off my ass about this made up racial tension in the United States. Like, I don't see it. Now, granted, I'm a white dude who lives in Florida, but honestly, man, I just don't see it. I think it's never about what they say it's about. And if it's like, look at this shiny thing over here and let's get this thing all stirred up because something else is going on. So, it's never been anywhere on my radar. I know quite a few people. I can say with a pretty solid certainty, nobody that I know is racist, okay, or hates anybody from who they are. And so extrapolate that onto a pretty big spider web. Like, I don't see it. And the numbers are not there to support any of that. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. but it's way better than it's ever been, and it's way better than anywhere else in the entire world. So
Yeah, and it could get better. And I think it will continue to get better. I think people just want it better now, and I don't think it'll work like that. But you got to remain open minded to some things. For example, we were talking about in court cases, for example, like you need to double down on that. Make sure that
precisely. Okay, that's
like
fine.
why would that ever be a thing where two people could be charged with the same thing and it's up to the judge to determine what the punishment is? Like it needs to be more of a menu. Like you do this is your punishment.
Yeah, there's some conflicting variables in that for sure, because there's a pretty solid study too that the more you pay for your lawyer, the better your chances. And that, so it might not be a race thing. I'm sure that's a component, but it might just be how much lawyer I can afford. It's still wrong. Don't get me wrong, but like, so instead of focusing on defunding the police and making shit up to cause riots, let's actually take a physical overall look at that system. If you're really concerned about making some change, there's things you can do. If you're more concerned about fundraising and pushing your agenda, like why in the holy hell does Colin Kaepernick have a fucking ice cream? I'm like, seriously, that's oppressive, all right. Ben and Jerry's has an ice cream named after you, you poor bastard. Like that's not what that's about. Okay, so kiss my ass, Richard. You're dying to say something. I can just tell.
No, I always got a kick out of this because where Mike and I were raised, there wasn't much diversity. Lots of white hicks, rednecks. And I always remember early 80s, 90s, there was a lot of big talk and people were talked like they were bigots. But then as I got out in the world and saw these people interact in the world and go off to the RV and participate in society out of our little microcosm, what it came down to is there were just a lot of bluster and they were way too damn nice to ever discriminate against anybody. And so I think for Oregonians, I just think it's as screwed up as this state is, I think a hell of a lot of nice people come out of Oregon. And I don't think that most people in Oregon have the capacity to be racist. I have not run across a true Oregonian, just because of the nature of the state and the way that it evolved in this unique little place on the West Coast and all the trials and Oregon has had a tumultuous past, and many times in Oregon's history, it has pulled together in some of the most unlikely ways to come up with some of the most innovative solutions that have ever happened across our democracy. And why we hate it now, we have to remember that it was really sort of a great place to hail from, and still is. And man, we were not a diverse state, but by God, we're one of the nicest groups of people that ever got set loose on the world. And so
we moved to Dallas, Texas when I was in the second grade for a few years and then came back. So like, talk about complete immersion. Like I was the minority instantly where we lived. Like I was the anomaly, like the crazy, not sure if you're redneck or what you are. You're not a northerner. You're just not normal at all, but you're the only white kid for blocks, So talk about baptism by fire, literally. So yeah, I was the one that discriminated against because I was white and different, but pretty quick, Dexter was my best friend down the block. And so, like, and next thing you know, you're gonna have neighborhood squabbles. That's because there's boys involved. It wasn't ever about race then. It was just about a-holes. So, so that was a great experience to go into. It's kind of traumatic to begin with because I'd never seen a black person. And just like Richard said, we were in our own little bubble. But still some of my very best friends to this day are who I met then. So again, maybe just lucky how I was raised, but I never even really saw it, I suppose. So
what you do see in Oregon, I've seen it in Pendleton several times, and my buddy just texted me about it, making fun of the guy. But you ever seen the dipshits that like around Pendleton that'll have like a Confederate flag on their pickup?
Huh? I don't get all riled up about the flag
guy
either.
is, I don't know if he's probably racist. Like,
No,
why
the
would
rebel
you
flag
have?
is-
Why would you have that flag?
because it's about
What are you doing?
rebellion. It's not about. It never was for me ever. And I know when I was on the General Lee
It's
on Dukes of
ignorance.
Hazzard, it wasn't
It's
about.
fucking
I
ignorance.
totally disagree, Mr. Joel. It's been made to be that symbol. It's not. It's about freedom and being rebellious in my mind. That's how I always pictured the rebel flag.
You're
Never
from
about,
Eastern Oregon. You're not from Alabama. I get
I
it
didn't
if you're
say
from
I
Alabama
was,
or
but
something.
like,
Not you, but the
yeah,
dipshit driving around Pendleton with a Southern flag.
dude, like
What
wasn't
do you,
that Alabama's album cover used to have a freaking Confederate flag on it? I mean,
yeah, they're from Alabama.
exactly. If it wasn't about like we're a racist band, like,
No,
I'm just
but
saying,
when
like,
you
we're proud of where we come from. I don't know. I
yeah,
totally
no,
disagree
but when
on
you
the.
fly that, I'm not talking about that. Those people do. I'm talking about the guy that lives in Pilot Rock that has a fucking Confederate flag. Like, what are you doing? You have no connection to that place whatsoever. You don't know what it means and what the message it's conveying.
I totally
You just
disagree.
answered your own question.
Yeah, you don't
You
know
just
what it
answered your
means.
own question.
What? How?
Yeah.
What?
Go ahead, Richard.
They don't have the context to know how offensive it is to a particular set of people. All they see it as
Okay. Yeah, that's an acceptable answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, go on. Sorry.
And I think I honestly believe, because I've seen it time and time again, those guys that I grew up with that had those flags and everything, when it came down to being in a situation where they had to accept a certain level of diversity, they melded right in and they were just normal human beings. When you're in a microcosm of all white people and you're trying to stand out, you do stupid shit. And when you don't have the context of the bigger conversation and you're 19, your prefrontal cortex isn't evolved completely, you're going to do stupid shit. But as you go out into life and you see different parts of the world, that kind of stuff fades away. And let's just face it, there's those guys that are never going to get that exposure, and they might hang on to that for a long time, but they're relatively harmless. And there's the wackadoos that go out and shoot people up, but they're such a rarity. They're just outliners in a big fishbowl. But we emphasize who they are and glamorize it and celebritize it, but they're just an outlier. They don't
At
speak.
best, yeah. But when I would look at let's take NASCAR for example, especially since I live here now. Been a NASCAR fan for a long time, but you would see, was it last year or year before, they said no more Confederate flags. You would look at the grandstands and see people waving the Confederate flag. I never, ever once even remotely thought, wow, look at that. There's a racist convention going on there at all. And I don't think they thought that either. Now, obviously, I'm putting thoughts in their head, but I think, again, that flag was taken and made into something that I don't think it really was for most people. Obviously, some people, no doubt, but for most people, no. It signified like a Southern lifestyle, if you will. I think for a lot of people, and like the guy on The Bachelor, he was defending a gal who was at a cotillion in college, and people like went ape shit. I'm like, they were talking about Southern belles and things like that. And I don't think they were saying, yes, this is how we loved slavery because it was so good back in the day. I think it's been twisted a bit. I know it's probably not the smartest thing to do, but I don't think that's what it's about remotely. For the vast
It's
majority
interesting
of people.
to attack symbol. It's
Yeah.
interesting to attack symbol. And if you notice this trajectory so it was the flag. I'm not defending it in any manner. And then it was statues.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's the founding fathers and even Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah,
So
they took his
all
name off
these
of high school
symbols
because there was a what was it, irregularities in the Indian Bureau when he was president.
Yeah. So really, they're attacking the symbols that make up the fabric of our mythos. They're basically tearing down the mythos that is America with absolutely nothing to replace it with. And that sort of leaves us in we're sort of adrift in an interesting time, because if we don't have a common level of a common group of symbols, a common group of habits, a common dogma that ties us together. We're not that bundle of sticks that's impossible to break. Once they separate, they can break us all individually.
Which kind of seems to be the
what they're
plan.
doing is, yeah, they're eroding the.
You're getting max headroom right now, as somebody said during reader mail.
Oh,
It's always when you're like making a really cool point using awesome words. And yeah.
Yeah. No. I wasn't trying to attack like I can't even claim to understand why the Southerners want to do it. I understand that they might have the reasons, but just that bothers me when I see somebody in the like Eastern Oregon doing it. Like it just shouts like, "Hey, look how fucking stupid I am."
I'm glad you have that opinion. I mean, I could not disagree more. I mean, obviously, probably that person has a lower IQ, but I don't see it's not. They're not doing
Doesn't
it.
bother you as much.
Not remotely. No, I don't see they're doing it as to be harmful or that that white power. I think it's really more about the rebel Southern spirit. That's how I look at it. And I might be completely Pollyanna.
They're not Southerners though.
Southern spirit. Like I might listen to like Leonard Skinner. I like the Southern. Like just because I live in Pendleton doesn't mean I don't want to be from Alabama. For God's sake. I mean, like yeah, that's cool stuff. I love Skinner. I want to go down. I want to go watch Daytona. Like you don't know. Like you're born there. You live there. They'll probably never ever get to Louisiana, but maybe they really like the South. Like it's that Southern lifestyle, man.
A couple of years ago, Roundup rejected, or the Main Street Cowboys, I think they run Main Street during Roundup week, but they rejected a booth that wanted to sell Confederate flags, and I was like, that's fantastic, good for them.
I guess I saw it so much when I was growing up too. Like everybody had like a rebel flag T-shirt on, like you had flag in the back of the pickup or on your four-wheeler. Like it was just like, yeah, like I could say yeehaw, but I'm not a Duke boy. Like it was just like that Southern spirit, man. Like that's the only way I can describe it.
It's embarrassing. Okay.
Completely different. And that just goes to show the different point of view of like how that symbol means something so different to everyone. And I guess if there's anything to learn out of that or discuss about it, it's like that exact point is it in itself is an inanimate object, really, unless it's waving, but it means different things to different people. And part of that's because of what it's been portrayed as. So that's great discussion in my mind because we see it completely different. I don't have a rebel flag. I don't think I ever had a rebel flag, but everybody around there was flags all over hell, and nobody even thought about it. It was like it would hang right with the American flag, actually underneath it, because we have protocol. But it wasn't like a beacon in the night, like aha, there's a Klan meeting over there. Like never said it. But it's two different times of people growing up in two different areas, and it means different things to everybody. I guess that's the whole point. So beauty, you know.
I was just looking at see Jimmy Buffett's from Alabama, so I was trying to find a picture where he had the Confederate flag. But here's Walter Mondale with one.
I can't see your phone because of your background.
Anyways, looking through the people that have been pictured with the Confederate flag is
yeah, and again, I almost said we can't whitewash our history. We can't go back and erase all of our history. I think that's the dumbest thing we can do because we're going to just go do it again. So tearing down the streets, like all that stuff, like it's so ridiculous. And it just doesn't make any sense remotely. How could you ever have a problem with Abraham Lincoln, for God's sakes? Like seriously, there's something wrong with the Indian affairs? Like I honestly, and I really can't think of any leader that didn't do something stupid at some point anyways. Like cheated on their wife or had an extra kid or God knows, cheated on their taxes. I mean, like, if you want to go back and find imperfections on anybody, it's probably there. So, and again, it's the past. Going back and taking Abraham Lincoln's name off a high school in California does not change the fact that Abraham Lincoln was an American and was our president. And lived and existed and was part of our country. Like, it doesn't cease to exist. Probably in their mind, they hoped it would, but that's part of our thing we need to be able to look back on and learn from all those things. That's the whole point is, you can't get rid of it. Don't get rid of it. Learn from it. Just like today, you make a mistake. Like, oh, that sucked. That was pretty stupid. What'd I do wrong? Aha, I won't do that again. And you move ahead. If you just instantly got your Men in Black and forgot about it, you probably got to go do the same stupid shit again. Oversimplifying, but that's the whole point. So, man, outstanding discussion, kids. This is some top quality. I don't even know where to begin, how to write the description up for this podcast. Just like, and shit, come and train. That would be probably what I would say. Yeah. So,
where are we at now in the discussion? We got
Well, I
intellectual
think
moment, or
we are just fixing to plow in. I'm like, and what better segue into the far reaches intellectual moment of the week?
my
What-
favorite segment.
Absolutely, Joel lives for this because it's brought to you by our very good friends at Pendleton Mixer and Cigar in scenic downtown Pendleton. Kick in the door and say, "Yo, shopkeep, the Reacher sent me," and you'll get probably, well, you won't get a discount. You'll get a smirk, maybe a free cigar. Ask for a free cigar, see if you can get one off those boys down there. But again, throughout the week, I'm randomly thinking of things to go dig up for the intellectual moment of the week, and no idea where our discussion was going to go or who we were going to talk about. But this week's quote is constantly seek criticism. A well thought out critique of what you're doing is as valuable as gold. Said by none other than our good friend, Mr. Elon Musk. So constantly seek criticism. A well thought out critique of what you're doing is as valuable as gold.
Yeah,
totally agree.
That's
Yeah. I've worked with some people, though, and dealt with some folks that the last thing they want is any sort of critique or criticism about their plan. Now, granted, there's a lot of ways to express your concern about their plan, but I think you should always be open to that discussion of like, hey, here's a fresh set of eyes. Come poke holes in what I'm thinking or talking about, because I've done it in this little vacuum, either in my brain or on my whiteboard. So what do you think? Where's the weak spots? Where have I made assumptions that I should not have? Those words I skip over when I read them and I say them, but I know they're wrong. I think it's wonderful. Not always easy to do, though. So Richard's like started to say something like 3 times, then he stopped.
I found this in my sorry. I found it in my, so somehow amazingly I've been able to develop this really great network of people on LinkedIn that are really great sounding boards, and have developed a sort of an online relationship with them where they feel comfortable to critique me or to criticize me and know that I'm going to take it well.
Mhm.
And that gives me a little bit of freedom to sort of push the envelope and poke some people that sometimes desperately need poked. But and I got people that say, "Oh, you went too far this time," but they keep, and it's an interesting, when you get into that type of relationship with people and you can have those real honest conversations. I find sometimes the more I push the envelope of my conversations online, the more feedback that I get and more discussion gets stimulated, and I end up learning a lot more than what I set out to learn. And so for that, I'm infinitely thankful. And I think that it's very rarely that you develop that network. And Micah and I had that network of intimate relationships with our roommates in LeGrand over several houses in a period of time, where we felt pretty, we still to this day mockingly criticize each other, but we went through all the hard relationship stuff to get to that point where we have this enduring lifelong friendship that's pretty unbreachable. That's my thought.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a two-way street on that. it's friendship and respect that you can take a criticism or critique from somebody, but they also feel comfortable enough that they will give that honest critique or feedback to you. And I see it all the time. This is such a weird connection, but like, there's two 911 shows now. One's in LA and one's in Texas. And the guy in Texas got a tattoo on his back, and it said like something, supposed to be something angel, but he'd misspelled it and it said angle, and it was his freaking tat on his back. He was so proud of it. Nobody would tell him that it was jacked up. Like he was getting ready to like take a picture of it and put it like on Facebook or something. They're like, finally they're like, oh dude, it says angle, not angel. But you know, like it was like, and I know it's TV, but I just don't know if I should tell him or not. I'm like, well, you bet your ass. Yeah, we'd probably let him go do something stupid, like post it and then tell him. But like, they didn't have that relationship yet where they could tell this guy, like, dude, you done screwed up. That's stupid, you know? And so I think it is that respect though, in both ways of that. I'll tell you and you'll listen, and vice versa. So I think it's a great place to be and especially I think if you actively seek that and not just put up with it when it comes in the door, but of acting like, I love to put something together and shoot it out like, hey, here's my first draft. It's like a monkey throwing something at the wall, but I want you to, here's what I'm thinking, where I'm trying to get. Where's the holes? What have I looked over? What have I, gone down the wrong rabbit trail? Like stomp this for me and make it better. Whether it's a presentation or a paper I'm writing or whatever, I think I learned a long time ago I tried anyways, not to attach too much ego just because I came up with it and I created it, that it doesn't necessarily couldn't be better if somebody else jumps off from there. And that's been the fun thing is opening that up a bit more.
I think there's a lot to be said for a lot of you build a good foundation in a relationship when you're vulnerable, and that's you're sending a message to the people that are around you that I think it's a level of trust. So
it is.
That helps build relationships. If people can see you vulnerable and they see that you trust them enough to see you when you're vulnerable, then it just builds the layers of the relationship.
Maybe that's why I have a lot of respect and affinity for my new doctor. Like she's already had her finger in my ass. I think that's about as vulnerable as I can get for the most part. I mean, not to make light of what you're saying, Richard, but it is a connection there. But you're right. And it was such a well said statement about, the respect for people who feel willing to show that you're vulnerable. Yeah. They can either trash you or help you, so like us, we're going to trash you a little bit and then help you. But that's the whole point. So what do you think, Joel?
Well, I don't really know how to. Can you hear me? I have my headphones around now.
No, you sound like you're just a little further away, but yeah, it's okay. It's not Raleigh crap. Yeah.
I don't know how to apply it to my life exactly, but I think it's interesting. One of my favorite shows, and I've mentioned this a lot. So I really like watching stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
But not just like, oh, make me laugh. I like to understand like how they do it. And so one of my favorite shows is Comedian in Cars Getting Coffee with Gary Seinfeld. And like, if there's nothing else to watch that I'm interested in, I'll just rewatch those things. And there was one recently with Leno on there. And I've heard a few comedians say this, like the great comedians will say this, is that, and a lot of people might not, Jay Leno was a great comedian.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, great point.
So a lot of comics will talk about how, oh God, I don't want to go on after like Bill Burr, like, because you're gonna bomb. How do you top Bill Burr? But Leno talks about how he always wanted to go on after Richard Pryor, who is considered by most of like the comic greats to be the great. Just because like you are set up to bomb, and Leno's premise was he always tried to put himself in situations where he was likely to bomb, just so he could get that feedback, so he could get that critique to make himself a better comic.
Mhm. Well said, because
That's it. That's what
Yeah.
I think when I hear that quote.
I think there's a huge correlation to that, because it's how you respond to that. It's I think a lot of it is having that feeling of like, I mean, I can only imagine what that feels like. I don't know. I imagine as high as the high is when you're rocking and rolling and the crowd's dying laughing and you're just hitting it. It's got to be double the bad when you're just flat and like crickets and like, you know, just nothing. Because you are, as Richard said, that's about as vulnerable as you can get. Like you are open, you know. So, but to go through that feeling of how that is makes you work harder, makes you appreciate that high, you know. And that's why those good guys always go work on that stuff and don't care who they go. Like Bill Burr would go blow in after anybody, not because he's badass, but he's badass because he's gone in
Well,
and
Bill Burr,
stomped after everybody, you know, like he'll just go talk shit.
Bill Burr talks a lot in his podcast about how he would play like the tough rooms, like the black rooms, because I think black comedy fans are notoriously tougher judges of comedy than
Sure.
like what you'd find in Manhattan,
especially like, you know, the little red afro
at the stand.
Bill Burr, yeah.
Yeah. So if Bill Burr can go into, you know, can show up on the stage of, I don't know, the Apollo or something, and kill at the Apollo, then he doesn't need to worry about playing
Madison
the
Square Garden.
ballroom.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's great
Or it's like
parallel.
Elvis and Jerry Lee.
Yes. Yeah.
Jerry Lee Lewis probably never even played in front of a white crowd until he was older.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah. I think that was a great thought path on that, Richard or Joel. I hadn't gone down that path in my mind about comedians and like just getting that's about as raw feedback as you're gonna get. And oftentimes there is zero respect, unless it's you know, I think about when we were in New York and we remember in the corner of the comedy store where we were at, there was like Attell and like Colin Quinn and the guys like just sitting around like after or before, like basically like busting chops and like going over their stuff and like, you know, again, that's where they're getting that real feedback. Like, dude, that nailed, or like, dude, that could be good, but you got to think about X, or you got to chase this a little bit more, or something. I think that's that cool feedback they have before and after that is really special amongst those guys.
I miss that. I think that might be up. I can't wait to go back there. It's called the Olive Tree, and you just go sit at the bar. There's always seats at the bar.
Yeah,
and right behind. I've sat down at the bar and like Bill Burr sat next to me. I didn't even know he was sitting there, but like behind you, there would be like, you know, Colin Quinn, Sarah Silverman, Bill Burr sits back there. Louis will sit back there. All like the great comedians.
Next time that happens, I want you to turn to Bill Burr and say, "Hey, are you in Star Wars?"
Hey there, Billy, freckle face boy there. Yeah.
Hey, you look familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never seen Star Wars, actually.
Oh, he's got a great cameo, 2 cameos in Mandalorian. They're great.
Yeah. He does a good job. He's so funny in The Heat, too. But anyway, yeah, what's that, Richard?
Actually, Breaking Bad.
The comedian that I'm thinking of that probably flirted that line the most just because of the outrageousness of his material was George Carlin. How many times did he have to fail to get his act dialed in? Because when he went primetime and stood up and did those specials that he did, you knew that he had to really piss some people off along the way to get it just on that razor edge, just so it can be shocking enough, but still be within the level of acceptance.
Yeah, because people hear me like, damn it, he's right. You know, like he's funny, he pissed me off, but he's right. Yeah.
Yeah, they have to be really smart in how they do that with like, because they do have a really unique talent of winning over somebody who thinks differently than them. But they can make it funny and interesting, present an angle that I've never thought of before. I'm
You
like,
think it's going to go this way, and it
okay,
goes.
I get it. I get
Yeah.
this social issue now because this comedian just presented in a way I never thought about before.
Like Bill Burr had extra large clanky huevos when he stumbled onto Saturday Night Live a few months ago and just laid it out and
Yeah, it's great.
killed. And the fact that people were getting pissed off about what he was saying because he was saying that they were going to get pissed off about what he was saying was even all the more better. But like he caught a little bit of crap for that, but I think overall people are like, no, that just killed. That was just, especially comedians were like, dude, epic, you know. But the people that got mad were like, that's the people he was talking about that were going to get mad for what he was going to say. So that was the funniest thing about the whole thing. But still, extra clanky balls to even go jump in that pool and just show how funny it could be. I think that's the great thing about it.
Here's another comedian that. Sorry, go ahead, Richard.
I was so amazed with 2020 had two of the best comedic performances I've ever seen. I watched the Chappelle one, which was mind blowing, one of the best I've ever seen. And then to have Burr follow it up, I can't remember a time when there was like, there's the time when Chris Rock had a couple good years, but he was it. I can't remember last time two comedians got up and did a Grand Slam show like back to back. I can't remember my lifetime when that's ever happened. And boy, 2020 was Chappelle and Bill Burr, and it was just amazing year for comedy.
I think Chappelle's really interesting because I don't find him like laugh out loud funny, but it's intriguing. I'm hanging on every word he says, even though it's not particularly funny all the time, but he's one of the world's great thinkers, I think.
Oh. It's mind blowing. Yeah. Did you see that? I think they did the Kennedy Center for him. That was one of the best things I've ever seen.
Well, they won the Mark Twain.
Mark Twain, that's what it was, not Kennedy Center. Yeah, Mark Twain. That was amazing. His stand up in the green jumpsuit. I think he was wearing his green jumpsuit when he talked about the First and Second Amendment. I think that was a really good one. The one he did that was more topical on race, I didn't find quite as funny. I think it was really brilliantly written and well stated. And I didn't find it as entertaining, obviously. But his other two stand-ups he did was just absolutely insane. Like his level of intellect and framing and writing, delivery, thought, how he brings it all back around, just smokes my mind. I think it's so cool.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to watch any of the comedians' cars getting coffee with Jerry Seinfeld, my three favorite episodes. There's one with Don Rickles, which is just fascinating, and then the Jay Leno one for like an education in comedy, and then I didn't realize just how fucking funny Gary Shandling was.
Oh, dude.
So Gary Shandling did an episode on that, and they talk a lot about death. Yeah. And I think the title even says like is something about dying, and then Gary Shandling died like 2 months later.
Yeah.
And I've recently started watching the Larry Sanders Show on HBO. But I never watched that, but Gary Shandling on that show, he is so quick-witted.
That show is amazing, dude. That show is the best.
They're the smartest, most intelligent people among us are good comedians.
I still remember jokes from the Larry Sanders Show, like to this day, and I watched it back in high school. Yeah,
it's a good choice. It holds up.
My favorite line, one of the funniest things I've ever heard, was the Norm Macdonald and Jerry Seinfeld comedians in Cars Getting Coffee when they're talking about Bill Cosby. And they said, Jerry Seinfeld said something about Patton Oswalt said something hypothetical about Bill Cosby. Oh, if he'd ever, whatever it is, you'd have to watch it, but I guarantee you, it's the funniest line I've ever heard Norm Macdonald get off. It's just they're talking about Bill Cosby and how it couldn't be that bad. He turns to Jerry Seinfeld. He goes, "I think it was the raping."
as only Norm Macdonald could deliver as well. He's just got that it's the ultimate deadpan, but yeah, and the voice inflection. Yeah.
Have you ever seen Norm Macdonald's joke where he told about when the new neighbor moved in next door and people were curious about what the guy does for a living, and so Norm went over there. He's like, so what do you do, Frank? He's like, well, Norm, should I tell a joke or just?
Oh, fucking let it rip, Tater Chip. Yeah.
I haven't heard this for a long time, so sorry if I fucking butcher it. But the new guy moves in next door, so everyone was curious what the guy does for a living because he moved in the nicest house. And so Norm finally went over there and asked him, he's like, what do you do, Frank? And Frank says, well, Norm, it's really hard to explain. It's better if I just show you or I give you an example. There he goes. I'm a professor of, I'm not even gonna try. Maybe I'll tell it next time. I gotta re-listen to the
do some homework. I want you
to, or just look it up on the internet and look up his joke about the neighbor that lives next door.
Norm Macdonald, neighbor.
Professor of reason. Professor of reason, I think. That's what he is.
Funny thing is, you almost told
and
that
then look up
how Norm Macdonald would. Go ahead, Richard. Your delay is really screwing you over.
I know. I'm sorry. Then look up the moth joke. Superb.
The moth joke by Norm Macdonald.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. I got some homework now.
I still want to try it. I'm the professor of reason down at the local university. Like, what's that? Well, it's hard to explain. I better just give you an example. And he's like, well, Norm, I can see that you're wearing a ring on your hand. So I can deduce from this that you must be married, right? Yeah, I am. Okay. So from your ring, I can reason that you must be is it a woman, Norm? Yeah, well, matter of fact, it's one. Well, then you must be a straight white male. Okay. And then hey Norm, I can see that you have a doghouse from my backyard. I can see you have a doghouse in your yard. Do you have a dog, Norm? Yeah, I have a dog. Well, because you have a dog, then you must have kids, right, Norm? Well, my golly, I do have kids. I have 2 of them. Like, okay, well, through those steps, I can determine that you must be a straight white male. So I've done a little bit of butchering.
You're just like Norm Macdonald, though. That's what's so damn funny about this.
So he went through that whole conversation, and then Norm goes to a different party, and they're talking about the new neighbor, and everyone's wondering what he does, and Norm's like, well, I know what he does. I went over there and I asked him, and they're like, well, what does he do? He's like, well, it's hard to explain. It's better to like show you, and let me show you. He's like, are you married? And the guy said, no, I'm not married. And he goes, well, then you must be a faggot.
Yeah. Do you have a dog or something? Anyways, yeah, he instantly jumps to the very end. It's beautiful. Yeah, I'd still recommend looking it up too. But Joel told it pretty much just like Norm Macdonald does.
It's the funniest joke I've ever heard in my life. But Norm just, he's an incredible joke teller.
He is very underrated, I think, by some people. Yeah. You do a pretty good Norm Macdonald impersonation, though. Just so you know, you could tuck that away.
All right.
Yeah, just saying.
This is my time to shine, and I failed.
It is. No, you did not fail at all. You were 1,000% Norm. You sounded just like Norm telling that joke.
Well,
you could have wandered around a little bit more in between. But
yeah, I had recently heard that joke, and I went to like a party in Brooklyn with Jess's friends, and who are by and large fairly liberal people. And I told that joke and I nailed it, and I hit the punchline, and I was like, this could go poorly. But they laughed. They laughed.
Yeah. Yeah, so
You
do
put
you have a
yourself
dog?
out there.
Yeah. See, honest feedback. Yeah. Oh goodness. Speaking of feedback, our next segment, we're going to try to plow through this. We have the word of the week, and this week is especially special, if you will, because it was submitted by a loyal listener, and it's something that the person that we both. Are you protesting, Richard?
No, I'm excited.
Oh, okay, good. So we know somebody in common who used to say this word all the time, and so when he brought it up, I was like, oh, shiitake, yeah. So this comes from our good friend Mr. Spoon in LeGrand. So the word of the week, the Far Reaches word of the week, is Honyonker. Honynker. Honyonker. It's more prevalent in Montana, but it certainly makes its way further out to the west also. So, Honyonker.
I'll take a stab at it.
Okay.
Is it the guy that waits on the side of the wheat field to run in and clean the combine out when it gets stuffed up?
I suppose it could be, but it's not really the nail on it. But in essence, it might be that guy. Yeah. And you'll close. It's not. I can't say 100% though. Yeah, it could be a characteristic of this individual, but it's not exactly like a specific name for somebody who does that.
I pulled that out of my ass, so I'm really surprised I got that close.
Pretty impressive. Yeah, especially.
I would say like a Honyonker would be something you would call somebody from another town, like farther away, who is like a doofus. Like we don't really like those people. They're Honyonkers.
Gotta say that's pretty damn good, Mr. Joel. It really is kind of like a dumbass, kind of dumbass farmer, sodbuster, like really insulting. Like if I was to call a cattleman like a sheep herder, like it's a flatlander. Like, sorry, Richard. So when I said, yeah, it could be the guy that just stands on the edge of the field and goes and unplugs the combines. That's probably all he can really do. But yeah, it's sort of like it's really detrimental, like insulting. You don't want to be a Honyonker. Yeah. So Joel pretty much nailed it. I think between you guys, you rocked it. But our good friend Mr. Kim Hanger in Montana, he used to throw that word around with some severity, and Spoon brought it up as a suggested word of the week, which I'm more than happy to take a loyal listener's thoughts on that. So yeah, great word. Not something you hear every day. Certainly I had not heard till I ran into Hager, and then I was playing when I was talking to Spoon about it. I'm like, and I remember I was playing quarters against some Hooterites at a beef meeting one time, and they were using that word also. So he goes, only you'd be playing quarters with some hoots at a beef meeting, but I digress. So yeah, great word, Spoon. Can't thank you enough. Always a good listener, and appreciate you submitting that word. So we'd also reach out to the other reachers if you've got a particular word. Let it rip. We'll see what you got going on out there, home skillets. So originally Raleigh had an entertainment spotlight of the week, but since he's been detained, I know they're calving and doing some other random stuff. We're going to kick it over to Richard for entertainment spotlight / breakdown for next session of the Far Reaches. So if you got a book, a play, a poem, a sonnet, a movie, what else are we thinking? A podcast, I think, would be also legal.
A record
for sure. Yeah. I thought about it. I almost did that for my first one. I was gotta go down that road, but I thought I'd save my powder for that. So Richard's getting stretched out and ready. I think he's choosing one of the 19 books that's on his desk right now.
I'm so sorry. This is a book, but I just read it. if anybody has watched World War Z, the Brad Pitt movie,
Oh yeah, of course.
it was a great
Pew, pew.
book, and it was written by Mel Brooks's son, Max Brooks.
No kidding.
Yeah, and the book and the movie, they didn't even try and follow it. So, the movie loosely holds to it, so you don't go away from the movie. It's like that was nothing like the book. Damn it! It was just Max wrote both a little bit, I believe, and but the book was amazing. I finished it he wrote some other books like the Zombie Survival Guide and that kind of stuff. But he just wrote a new book in March of this year that I totally missed. And I was so excited when I found it and got time to read it. It's called De-Evolution, the firsthand account of the Rainier Sasquatch Massacre. And this book is so... I'll just give you, I don't want to spoil it, but it very much deals with the mentality of people in the modern age, and it parallels because I know that the Brookses are Jews. I think it parallels the type of mentality of people Holocaust when at the beginning of World War II. It is a brilliant book with many, many, many layers, and it's really written to annoy you. It's like a it's an earworm, and you're gonna want to quit reading it, but you want to get all the way through it. It is it's a masterpiece. And if you really think of all the layers that he's built into this really book, it's 7 hours if you listen on Audible. If you look at all the layers that he's built into it and come at the perspective that he comes at from his father's experience before World War II and his family's experience, it's a mind-blowing book. And I'm sure they'll adopt it for a movie, but they're not going to get anywhere close. This book is brilliant.
So I'm confused though. Which book do you want us to read?
It's called De-Evolution.
I thought it was World War Z.
No. It's the second book. That's the first book you wrote.
Oh, okay. So not
De-Evolution.
De-Evolution. Good. I was hoping I was going to read that one anyways.
De-Evolution, the first-hand account of the Rainier Sasquatch Massacre. And like I said, he purposely makes the characters annoying as hell. So you're going to want to put it down, but you want to get all the way through it because it's amazing.
So was this what the movie The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then Bigfoot was based on?
No.
Oh, damn it. I was really hoping. It sounds awesome, though. Yeah. So it's good. It's De-Evolution by Max Brooks, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. And then the something of the Rainier Sasquatch Massacre, correct?
Yeah, that's all you have to remember.
That's just yeah. Max Brooks, De-Evolution. You should get her.
I'm sorry it's a book, but it's so good.
Dude, I think I'm hoping we keep getting Western and picking different shit. And I think we're definitely going to get into music. We'll do some plays. I'm going to do a poem at some point, just so you're warned right now. So yeah, probably not a Weasel original, but a poem somewhere. Yeah.
Just so you guys know, one last thing. It's a very timely book. I think it will hold the test of time, but right now it's very timely. So,
which I always appreciate with you. You do tend to marry those two together well. So, harumph. That brings us right into this is personally my favorite segment because everybody always shits their pants when I ask them. But we're gonna bust into the far reaches. What did you learn? And again, I don't need some kind of new algorithm or anything. Like just what pops in your head from our either this conversation or in the past week, just overall, like what's going on in that brain of yours. And if you want me to kick it off, I'll be happy to. I shall. And I think it's going to be even more relatable. But I just learned today, I got my email from SpaceX and I'm eligible to get Starlink internet soon. I paid my deposit. It's coming. Richard, do the same.
Richard needs
so we
that,
don't
yeah.
have to goddamn max headroom you all the time. But pretty stoked. I've got super duper high speed internet right now, but it comes from Cox, and I can't wait to tell them to go pound sand. And so super stoked when I got that today. I instantly signed up, spent my $100 for my deposit. I think it's like 400, 500 bucks in total to get the whole shitaroo, but can't wait. I'm so stoked. That's what I learned. It's almost the best thing of the week, but I had to get it out at some point. I'm going to put under what I learned because it just came out today. For me, anyways, I got the email. I know there's people online that had it for a while, but pretty excited about that. So here's your little kernel. Go ahead, Richard. What'd you learn in homeschool?
I think I've learned that ecological services in agriculture is going to be huge, and that you should be, if you're in agriculture, you should be paying attention to it and try to start figuring out how you're going to work it into your operation. And I think I've seen the possibilities of it firsthand, and it's mind blowing. And I think that everybody needs to take a step back and drop their paradigms and look at what they can do on their operation. And I think that once they start pushing the boundaries of it, that they are going to be pleasantly surprised with where it'll take them and what kind of extra revenue they're going to be able to garnish from taking a real deep look at what they're doing.
Can you expand just a bit more what you frame as ecological services? That's a pretty expansive category. I'd like some more of your insight into stuff.
So just this is the bare minimum, keeping ranches and farms intact, even mismanaged ones, is providing an ecological service because it's a book holder that's stopping other types of negative development. So at the very minimum, just keeping your operation from going bankrupt is an ecological service. And everything that, if you can improve soil health, that's an ecological service. If you can improve water quality, that's an ecological service. If you can improve wildlife conservation, I honestly think that one of the biggest things that we're going to see moving into the future is private conservation. And I think that as our population grows and there's more people in urban areas and there's less wild and open spaces, agriculture land is going to have more and more of a premium value on it. I think it's going to be harder to keep a hold of, but I think if you can show a good path of ecological services, that there's going to be some underlying economic opportunities that become out of that. So I just would preach, start thinking about this word, don't poo-poo it. I think it's going to be huge. And I think that other people, if you're not being innovative on your land, on your operation, other people are going to get that land, and that you're not going to be able to succeed, and somebody else is going to come in. If you already have the land, start thinking about the ecological services that you provide. And the world's changing. This is the way it's going to go, and barring a complete disruption or collapse of society, the way it's going to continue to go. So you can't just do one thing on your operation anymore. You're going to have to diversify, layer different revenues, and start. Agriculture is going to have to open up and start talking in a whole new way, and going to have to be really loud about it. So I just say, everybody just jump on it.
You're all the experts when you just stop and think about it. You just have to be able to convey it. I think that's the cool part about it, is nobody knows it as well. You just got to look at it a little bit differently and see what other folks are doing and what's working. And, not everything works. Tweak here, tweak there, asking what if or why. It's probably the strongest thing we can do as any kind of natural resource person.
Yeah. And it's going to be tough because as a culture, humility is rewarded, but we are a culture that is 1.8% of
Mm.
the population, and so
Gotta tell
I
the
don't think,
story, man. Gotta tell the
yeah,
story.
I don't think humility is going to get us down the road. So start, yeah, Mike is right. Start telling your story and start being the expert of your own region, your own operation, and once you establish that credibility, I think the sky's the limit.
Yeah, great point, Richard. Yeah. Wow. Way to rock and roll on what you learned. It makes up for at least the past 2 or 3. Yeah, no, just kidding. Look at Joel. Joel, I'm dying to know, man. I'm just dying.
Yeah. No, I kind of envy, Richard. I'm sure Raleigh's going through the same thing. I think you guys are in a good position, even though maybe over the years, like I feel like what you guys do is a tough business, but it's cyclical, and that's going to flip pretty soon. That's gonna be a pretty hot area to earn a living. Whereas, like, I'm in a place where it's so uncertain, and our bank post earnings, it's like, yeah, we're down 30% year over year, and I don't foresee this is gonna. It's not like next year we're gonna have a gangbusters year. Um, it's a dying. I'm in a dying industry now,
I don't
which
know about
is
that. I mean, how is it compared to other banks? I mean, I know everybody does different things, but if everybody else is down 50 and you're down 30, then in some weird way, it's not as
there's
bad.
consolidation. Maybe the bigger problem is that I shouldn't have ever left J.P. Morgan, because they're going to be the winners to a certain extent. Maybe fintech will probably replace them too eventually. I think fintech is another area that's going to rise. Maybe I could get into there, but just so much uncertainty.
Always. Yeah.
I don't know. So I think it's important to diversify. I think back. You guys know Micah? I bet Richard didn't, but Ralph Curran?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ralph was my uncle Ralph. He was a judge in Pendleton. He used to send me in college. He'd like I'd get a piece of mail every month or so, and the only thing in the envelope was a torn off piece of paper bag from the grocery store, and on it just said nephew, study a profession, and he'd just sign it uncle, and then there would be
That's
like
so cool.
50 or $100 in there. And that was his message. And I thought, like, I don't even know what that means, but I wish I could listen to him a little bit. And because if you're in agriculture or a farmer or a rancher, that's a profession. If you're just a compliance officer, like, you're at the whims of government regulation. Easily your life's work could disappear. So I guess it's just take advantage of what you have when you have it, and it's going to disappear, and diversify. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I think I would frame it as to find what makes you happy.
I don't know about that, but
I think so, man. Yeah.
I can't be a professional golfer. I think that would make me happy.
Then find a way to play as much golf as possible,
Yeah.
Just saying.
Or on a golf course.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what else I'm excited about is
I know you could buy the golf course in Lakeview if you wanted.
Yep, I can get it for you.
Yeah. Oh, Richard gave me help. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I am.
You gonna mow it for me too?
Yeah. I could mow it for you. I just got a nice John Deere mower now. I'm a mowing machine, man. It's on. I'll come. See,
I'm gonna send you a
throw it out there,
Joel.
Man. What's that, Richard?
I'm gonna send Joel a book. It's one of the best books. Scott Adams.
Don't tell him what it is. Just send it. I want him just to get it and be like, fucking Richard. Yeah, don't tell him what it is. Okay. Don't tell him any more, Scott. Just send him the book, man. That's the awesome part about it. Yeah. Not to get your business, but I think it's cooler if you just like, hey, Joel, I'm sending you a book. It might be the DMV Motor Manual. It might be my favorite book of all time. I'm sending you a book.
All right.
Don't forget. Yeah. So awesome. I think that's nothing against Raleigh. I wish he was here. That's one of the better what we learns ever. We got a little philosophy, got some technology, you got some ecology. It's all about the E's, isn't it? Apparently. Yeah. So
Yes.
cool. We've got some great reacher mail this week too. Some up and downs all around. So first, Big D in Texas. Hey, started the podcast on Wednesday, finished it on Saturday. I think I passed out somewhere around Richard's Max Headroom impersonations. Nothing against the podcast. It was definitely medically induced. So we're glad you finished listening, Big D in Texas, and even listened through Richard's Max Headroom impersonations. Many of our audience might not even know who Max Headroom is, but let's just say he's probably Alexa's stepdaddy. Put it that way. So Google it. Yeah. Spoon in Oregon says, hey, y'all take suggestions for word of the week? I think we know the answer to that we do indeed, since Spoon was the purveyor of this week's word of the week that I was so proud to spin on to us. CW in Pendleton, hey, great conversation about Bob O'Rourke. Just some updates. Bob attended University of Portland undergrad and then Lewis and Clark for law school. And then also said when Bob was born, he was already 14 years old, hence the genius he is today. Also, he reads a ton of books. So yeah, we got some great feedback from our Bob O'Rourke segment. Sean in Pendleton said, Bob is a big fan of Far Reaches and is catching up now that he's started to hear some more about you guys. So thought that was really cool. Some great feedback from all the gang there. Hopefully we can keep expanding on that and get some more Bob stories. Maybe get something recorded with Bob someday would be the ultimate dream. So yeah.
Breaking into a new demographic.
Definitely into a new demographic of retired lawyers in Pendleton. That's a big when looking up on Facebook Market on how to target those people, it's pretty specific. Yeah. So once again, reminder to get your Far Reaches logos in. I know R3 is working on one. I'm anxious to see that. Get that busted out. We'll get you some swag. If you have questions or comments, certainly get that to us at farreachespodcast@gmail.com. Send your artwork there. We'll have a small announcement coming up soon. We're going to be on another platform, I think, here, hopefully by the end of the week for podcasting, a quite large one. And so as soon as we get that dialed for sure, I'll have an announcement. But that should be coming up. I just started that process today. So it should be pretty cool. So just when you think I don't do anything.
I'm even excited.
See? Isn't that awesome? Yeah. So
Didn't know there were other platforms.
there's one other major platform that we're not on yet, and I'm working on getting that done. So submitted today. Looks good. So as soon as it gets all
I think I know what it is.
well, maybe we'll talk offline and see if you're right there, Mr. Richard. Yeah, how's that sound? So again, yeah, we love everybody's feedback. Get a hold of us on our Facebook page, Far Reaches Gmail, any of us always, and everything like that. And that brings us to our last segment, which I always like to end on. The best thing of the week. I like to go out on kind of a high note. Sometimes we get a wheel in the ditch. Sometimes we get down. Sometimes we get crossed. But I like to end with a nice best thing of the week. And again, we're not looking for anything completely earth-shattering that's going to be read at the UN opening ceremonies or anything, but just something you want to talk about. So, Joel, you're looking pretty snazzy there in your pullover in your locker room. So what do you got for best thing of the week this week, good sir?
My brother texted me today.
Which one? Older or younger?
Brian.
Okay.
Older. And he mentioned that they're all going down to a bunch of them are going to Bandon to play some golf this weekend. So I think there's a good chance that this whole crew on the way to kill time. That's like what is it, like an 8-hour drive?
Good 6 for sure, maybe 8. I know we drove it once. We stayed at a casino and then went on another hour or so in the morning when I went. So
yeah. So my best thing of the week is Junior having to drive and
he likes it.
Other people in the car making him listen to this podcast.
Outstanding. Yes. Well, he's a sponsor, so he should get a little interest and a giggle or two out of that. What better way to drive to Bandon than listen to this? I mean, we should have started off with that. We could have tailored it a bit more for their trip, but they'll probably listen to something from 4 weeks ago anyways.
it's the best intellectual moment of the week we've done ever. So he can say, look, I sponsored that, made that a reality. So he'll have bragging rights.
And he will take advantage of those. That's one thing we can
I
guarantee
bet
you.
I can
Yeah.
just see him driving his, he always has his left hand at 12. It's like, fucking Joel. Such a dumbass. So why doesn't he just shut up?
Yeah.
He hates me so much. I
He
love
does
the guy.
not hate you. He just has that relation with you that, yeah, yeah. It's the best. Yeah. And that's just
And Darren's probably like sitting in the back, quiet, mind his own business, being a sweetheart that he is.
who's all headed down? They taking 4 or 8?
You got Brian Jr., Darren, Matt, JJ, Jeff, and Joe.
Oh, awesome. Good herd. Everything about JJ, they're going to stop somewhere and get freaking hot dogs. So love you, JJ, man. I miss playing golf with you. I can't wait to play golf again with the gang. Yeah. That's a good trip though, Bannon. That's a fun one. I got to go with Pot Roast and Junior and Kurt. That's one of the best Bannon trips ever. Yeah. So
yeah, it'd be a fun trip.
Not to, step on anybody going this time. It's still great. So Richard, what is your best thing of the week, my good sir?
A lot of big week, so lots of excitement. But I think the one that, on a personal level, the best part of the week was for my trip to Idaho. I invited my cousin Ben.
Oh yeah,
so,
Rojo Grande.
Yes, so I see him occasionally, but I don't get to spend long quality time with him. And we're actually banned from flying anywhere in the United States together without a chaperone because we have missed planes on 3 separate occasions, drinking in the airport bar with
Turns out
people. Ben is a magnet for the most interesting people. If there's a group of large people and you take Ben into it and apply a little alcohol, every interesting person within close proximity, even far away proximity, will somehow magically be attracted to my cousin Ben, and you will begin to have the most interesting conversations with the most fascinating people that you never thought you would ever cross paths with. He has this amazing charisma about him that it's undescribable. So it was a really special trip that I was able to take my 3-year-old son and my his uncle Ben along for a good 2-day road trip. And I hope it's the first of many. And I hope that my son grows to love Ben as much as I do. So,
he's so lucky to get to have that Uncle Ben influence. And
turns out
yes.
You just can't buy that kind of stuff.
Turns out, man, what a great story that was. I think we're truly missing out by not GoProing Ben and just sponsoring random trips, because you could easily charge $30 a month to watch that. No doubt.
That would that would eclipse the Ed Show or the Truman Show
by billions. Yeah. Like, and we just, hey, here's $300. We're sending you to Billings and just see what happens. Or you're stuck in Midland, God knows what. It would just be awesome.
And I have to say that I have fascinating sisters. I have fascinating cousins, but only Ben has superpowers.
Turns out, none of y'all are what I'd consider, average or pedestrian, but there is a larger cape on Ben than, and you're right there close. Don't get me wrong.
There's a good possibility about half of us are going to go batshit crazy before we die. So enjoy us while we last.
You really should. Yeah. If you can get your own Bradbury, I highly suggest it. Yes. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. I've had a lot of crazy cool stuff going on this week, also with work and jobs and this and that and the other. But as I've been working on a list of projects around the villa, as I call it here in Florida. And one of the things I had working on was I wanted to put an outdoor kitchen up right where I'd really kind of pictured it. There's 2 pretty nice trees. Actually, one of them is my favorite tree in my yard. I was going to have to move it. And so one of my this past weekend, I actually had hooked the tow strap up to it, and I was trying to, put a lot of pressure on it to tug it over, and then start digging around it. And I stopped, and I'm like, this, not what I want to do. It's not feeling right. So I started surveying around my hacienda, and at the end of the, like, my whole back porch area is screened in porch basically, but it's been, when I got here, it was in two different segments. There's like a concrete floored section with patio, like nice metal frame I put screen in, and then there's like at the end of it, there's like a 12 by 12 section it's like 2x4 floor and like wooden frame and just a little more craptacular, but it's kind of like I think somebody probably used it for like a room to like pot plants and stuff in, which I suppose at some point in my life that might be a priority, but at this time it's not really how I'm going to spend my evenings. So anyways, what I ended up doing was stepping back on the other side of the yard and looking across, and I'm like, there's no reason for me to go tear down two trees or move them and then build something from the ground, where if I get a little western, I can really just kind of take that whole end part off and turn that into my outdoor kitchen / bar area. So within a few short hours, I had it pretty much all torn down but the framework, and now I'm sort of just still penciling out where the bar area is going to go, where the smoker and the barbecue and the sink's going to go. But I got power there. I got hot water right through the wall. I got my natural gas that comes in right at that same spot. So my point being, that was my best thing, is like I just paused a little bit. I listened to my gut when I was getting ready to tear a tree out of the ground, and I looked around and I had a pretty good start and jump at the same time. Sounds like start. It was right there already. It was just a little bunged up with a bunch of other crap, and I needed to just get a little creative and take a step back. So I did, and I'm pretty happy with what I got so far. I think it's going to turn out to be pretty damn nice, and I didn't have to move a tree. So yeah, that was my best thing of all the crap I got into. Yeah.
So you're saying that you might be reaching the peak of youth and skill and going over the hump to age and treachery?
It might indeed be right at the precipice, if you will. I'll do something stupid and irrational this week anyways, just to make up for it, because it's that internal denial, I think, of those skills. But yeah, there's a chance. There's a distinct chance. Sure. So I won't deny it. It really impressed myself. I got to be honest. Yeah. So we'll see. It's the little things. And Joel's like, I do not want to get that old. Yeah.
I wasn't really paying that much attention.
I figured as much. Joel doesn't really listen much. That's why I always say your name before I ask you a question, so you know that I'm indeed talking to you. Yes.
What?
What do you think about that, Joel? Yeah. So
I hate it on work meetings when somebody's talking and they're like, Joel? What, me?
Me? Did I raise my hand? Yeah. Like, that's
can you repeat the question?
I think if you do, I figured out that it's the hand triangle. If you get this, I think there's a lot of complexities here. And when you put the hands forward on one of the key words, usually multisyllabic, there's a lot of complexities here. I'd really like to delve a little bit deeper before I really commit. I think my opinion on that is that okay. And then you kind of get one of these when you're finishing up. That's pretty hard to get around. You're pretty solid.
I think we're lacking synergy.
Don't say the synergy word. Do not. I will come through this screen. Yeah.
Oh,
that was a great show. Did you see that show?
The Crew?
Yes.
Yes.
The drinking game. Great show on Netflix called The Crew with Kevin James. And it's about a fictional NASCAR team, and the owner's daughter's from Stanford. And so they're out with a sponsor, and they start playing a drinking game whenever she says, like, I'm from Stanford, it's this drink. And when she says, like, I think synergy might have been one of the words, but they had like 3 or 4, and it was absolutely hilarious because she comes back to the table and they're trying to get her to say these words again. So the other one's going to have to drink. I can't believe you were thinking the same thing, Richard, and actually got that far through the series too. That's hilarious. Yeah. Pretty decent show. Like, it's definitely sitcom-y. But yeah, some great one-liners and some funny stuff. So yeah, The Crew on Netflix.
When your brain has stopped working and you just need to let go.
Completely. Yeah. Just drop the reins and wherever it goes, you're just happy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There's some, and I have to say also, when she wears those white pants in the shop, I am a big fan of those also. Yeah. So.
Oh, the other highlight was that she's re-interviewing everybody, and it gets
Oh,
to the
yes.
mechanic, and they go, "Well, is she going to interview you?" And he goes, "No, I'm the one that makes the car run."
Yeah. Do you want to interview Garrett? He's like, no, I don't. She goes, I don't need to interview him. He makes the car run. He's like, I tried to tell you. Yeah, it was pretty good. They do they capture a lot of good personalities you want to have at a job, of course. And then they got the NASCAR theme, so it's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad at all. You might check it out, Joel.
Yeah, it will be a lot more digestible than a whole book, Maybe that could have been our entertainment of the week.
Not at all. No. It's got to be inspired. And this was just a random thing. We both happen to be thinking the same word. Yeah. And way to bring up synergy. Good job, Mr. Joel. Good job. See? Yeah. That's what this shit's all about. That's what the reaches are all about. So anything else for the good of the order before we wrap this little adventure up for the evening? And again, I can't thank everybody enough for all your listening, your support, comments. Keep those coming. Mail, questions, concerns. We'll be having some updates as we move along. New logo coming soon. Hopefully some Reacher gear that goes with that. And hopefully I have an announcement pretty quick too about our latest platform, and we can start doing some more expansion on that. But keep the questions coming. Share, like, and if you don't like, share some more. Maybe somebody else will get what they deserve. So till then, keep on reaching, and we'll talk to y'all soon.